Please unmute yourself. You are live now.
Evening, everybody. It's indeed a happy occasion. It's a long time dream come true for all the Andhra ophthalmologists. We are starting our new chapter of ISMSICS. I request Dr. Amulya Sahu sir, Dr. Boramani sir, and Dr. Srinivas Joshi to please take over the proceedings of this happy occasion of installation.
Unmute, please, Dr. Srinivas.
Thank you, madam. Good evening, everyone, for the Andhra Pradesh chapter launch of ISMSICS for this auspicious occasion. Though we had to make it virtually, having on the ground. So thank you very much, Dr. Madhvi and Dr. Madhu, for shaping it up so well. And first of all, without wasting much time, I would like to just briefly tell you about the speakers and the international. It's a big prestigious movement for ISMSICS Society to have Andhra Pradesh chapter. To just a few words about Andhra Pradesh, it's called as the rice bowl of India. That's what we used to read in our geographic books right from our childhood days. And the most common spoken language there is the Telugu. And if you look into it, it is the third most spoken language in India. And can anyone guess what it could be the most spoken in the world out of 195 countries? It is the 11th most commonly spoken language in the world. And that is how Andhra Pradesh Society also to have the AP chapter getting installed today. So without wasting much time, I will introduce our chairman, founder chairman, Dr. Amulya Sahu, who is the brain behind participating in that. And thanks to all the founders, Dr. Amulya Sahu and Dr. Jagannath Boramani. I request Dr. Sahu sir to please give his opening remarks.
Welcome you all, and it is really a prestigious occasion. And Andhra Pradesh is, they have got a lot of very experienced surgeons and doing wonderful work, and we are getting them on this platform is one of very happy occasion for all of us. And Dr. Asia, I saw his people expander, it is an innovative idea, and he has been nice enough to send me a sample. Only thing is video is not coming and they are creating a lot of problems. So, but he has been nice that we must try out his, I saw his Bangladesh presentation and I was impressed. So I think it has got a good scope because it is put from outside. So it's a good thing. And Grace has been nice enough to participate here, and Danson is our friend, he will be there. And I now request Boramani to give the journey of ISMSICS video.
Yeah, can I share my screen?
Please, sir.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You can put it in the slideshow mode and.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I welcome all the invited speakers, the panelists, and all the new office bearers of Andhra Pradesh chapter of ISMSICS. In fact, this chapter has been found very late. Most of the state chapters are going for the second tenure, but Andhra Pradesh, this is the first tenure. But it is always said in Hindi that der aaye, Bhagwan ke ghar mein der hai, lekin andher nahi hai. So I think they have come with a lot of enlightenment and a lot of stalwarts are there in the Andhra Pradesh chapter. Without wasting much time, let me give you a brief idea of what is ISMSICS, because there may be so many people new joining ISMSICS and the delegates also. So this society was formed by Dr. Amulya Sahu. It was his brainchild. It was formed long back in 2005. And today we have approximately almost 900 life members. In 2005, in a Bombay workshop, SICS workshop, the society was launched. And in the same year, he took a delegate of about 10 doctors to China. So this was the first international event of the China. And the second major conference was organized in Malaysia. This was a 3-day event with wet lab, live surgeries as well as deliberations. This event was attended by almost 600 delegates. In the next year, he took the delegates to Indonesia. This was the Indonesian Ophthalmological Society conference jointly with Singapore Ophthalmological Society. But this conference was organized under the aegis of ISMSICS. So it was a great honor to us. Next year in 2009, there were almost 3 international events. One was in Egypt, next one was in Sweden, and one in Philippines. So all these organizations, they give sessions to ISMSICS then in their conferences. In 2013, we had life surgical workshop as well as camps in operative camp in South Africa. We had almost 7 issues of hard copy journals. I was the editor of ISMSICS, but somehow we are not able to manage. So this work was temporarily start, and now again our new journal of ISMSICS is going to be launched soon, very soon. In 2015, ISMSICS was invited for conducting wet lab in APACRS in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And we started our biennial world conferences from 2015 onwards. Our very first conference was jointly with Pune Ophthalmological Society in Pune, attended by about 900 delegates. This was a 3-day event, and after 2 years, we organized with Arvind Eye Care System. They were our partners. Thanks to Dr. R.D. Ravindran for his mediation, and as well as Dr. Srinivasan and Dr. Haripriya. This conference also was a big success, with almost 800 to 900 delegates, a 3-day event with wet lab, live surgeries and deliberations. This was organized in Hotel Grand Chola in Chennai. In the same conference, ISMSICS as well as Help Me See, which is an organization which has SICS simulators, they became partners. Now in 2018, in the last one conference, Barcelona, SICS surgeons conducted an instruction course, as well as we had a satellite event in Bareker's Eye Institute where a wet lab was conducted. And in the same wet lab, launching of the book, The Master's Guideline of ISMSICS was launched at the hands of Professor Rafael Bareker. In this World Conference also in South Africa, it was a virtual conference, but again, thanks to AIS, ISMSICS speakers were given a full session, and it was a big success, though it was a virtual conference. ISMSICS partnered with so many organizations and had various series over a period of many years all over the India. And we had given symposia in various conferences across the globe, across the world, India mainly, in various regional conferences as well as the state conferences. Our third biennial conference was held almost 6 months back in Kolkata. It was a grand event attended by 1,000 delegates, and there was representation from 100 delegates from Bangladesh, and again the attendance was almost from 30 countries all over the world. AIOS was kind enough to understand the importance of SICS, and last 3 AIOS conferences, ISMSICS has been given 2 big mega sessions, that is Magic of SICS 1 and Magic of SICS 2. These sessions are always given in the big hall, and right from 2018 onwards, these sessions are going on. In the last conference in Kolkata, our Bangkok, the Thailand partner, Professor Ampon Jangsarjit, he announced that in November 2020, there will be a midterm event in Bangkok. Similarly, our next biennial conference, World Conference, will be held in partnership with PGI Chandigarh in September 2021. And the next conference will be held in US in 2015. This announcement was done by Dr. Muni Anderson. We have presence in almost all states in India. This is an old state, and like as you have seen today, 4 or 5 more states have joined. And we have affiliations with AIOS, and there are chapters outside India in many countries, as you can see in the slides. And there are many future plans like affiliation to the International Council of Ophthalmology. Our new secretary, Dr. Srinivas, has promised to start PG training programs, and he can tell the details shortly after some time. We had also launching ceremony in outside the country like Egypt, Bangladesh, and so many other countries. And in the Corona pandemic, we have started doing the international webinars. We have conducted 4 world webinars, and the attendance in the last webinar was 9,172. As well as we have webinars of various state chapters and various international chapters outside the world, outside India. And so many installation of new chapters are taking place. So those who are not members of ISMSICS, they can have a screenshot of this slide. So this is the link for the joining our website is www.ismsics.com, and this is the link for membership which you will find on the website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Boromani sir, for that kind introduction, and for the rest of the members and all the audience to know more about ISMSICS. Now I request our Vice President of ISMSICS, Dr. Parikshit Gogate sir, to just say a few words.
No. One is thank you to Andhra Pradesh Ophthalmology for having such a vibrant Andhra chapter. Andhra Ophthalmology has always been in the forefront of Indian ophthalmology. And apologies for my virtual background, I'm not able to get this one today. In many ways, Manual SICS is a unique gift of India to the world and of Indian ophthalmology to the world. And I'm sure with the Andhra chapter, we will do many more great things in the next 2 years. Over to you, Dr. Srinivas.
Thank you, sir, for those nice, kind words. And do we have Dr. Satanshu Mathur here? If not, then I will go ahead with the installation ceremony of the AP chapter. I hope everybody is able to see my screen. Madhu?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, Madhvi madam. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Once again, welcome to the installation of the Andhra Pradesh chapter of ISMSICS Society. So without wasting much time, I would first like to welcome our chairman, Dr. C.V. Gopal Raju. I think there's nobody who doesn't know about Dr. Gopal Raju in India. He's the founder and medical director of Visakha Eye Hospital, scientific committee chairman of Andhra Pradesh Ophthalmic Society. He's a senior cataract, refractive and corneal surgeon, runs a Weber Trust extensive school screening program, and after all, a very kind and humble human being. So with this, we welcome Dr. C.V. Gopal Raju to the ISMSICS family. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Srinivas.
So next we will have installing our president, Dr. O. Gopalakrishna, who is the joint medical director of Modern Eye Hospital, Nellore, senior cataract, refractive and corneal surgeon, and one of the very first few to perform the manual small incision cataract surgery in Andhra Pradesh. So it's good to have such person as the president of the esteemed society. So we welcome Dr. O. Gopalakrishna sir to the ISMSICS Society and family. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas.
So then we have ever smiling lady. I think we should have a prefix or the suffix, Dr. K. Madhvi Rao, an ever smiling lady. Like how we have the Padma Bhushan and Padma Shri. I think I would like to say it. So we now introduce Dr. Vice President Dr. Madhvi Rao, Senior Consultant CFS Gayatri City Eye Hospital at Vijayawada, Senior Cataract and Refractive Surgeon, and having a very special interest in SICS, and she runs a lot of academic programs, not only for the postgraduates but also for the rest of the ophthalmologists as well. So we welcome Dr. Madhvi Rao. Welcome, madam.
Thank you so much.
Then we have the dynamic secretary who made it possible. Just we had Dr. Madhu in the last webinar. That is the mega debate, the planet wants to know, and he was speaking on the carbon footprint. And me and Sahu sir and Dr. Boromani sir were just asking Madhu, why not having an AP chapter? Within few days, he came out with a plan and society was formed within 5 days. Such a fantastic and prompt response. And I think he has done a phenomenal job in forming this society. As we all know, he is the director of Sri Kiran Institute of Ophthalmology in Kakinada, medical director B. Balakrishna Eye Bank, cataract, refractive and corneal surgeon, and an Indian partner for Harvard Global Alliance for Medical Innovation. So with this, we welcome our dynamic secretary, Dr. Madhu Uddaraju.
Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Madhu. Then we have another dynamic joint secretary, Dr. Ashok Vardhan, who is the Chief Medical Officer of Sri Venkateshwara Arvind Eye Hospital, Tirupati, who is a very high volume cataract surgeon. As you all know, Tirupati, the Lord Venkateshwara is presiding in the deity of Tirumala, Tirupati Tirumala Venkateshwara, which is located in Tirupati. So with the Lord blessings of Tirupati, that is Venkateshwara, we are having this AP chapter launched today. And here we have another dynamic joint secretary, Dr. Ashok Vardhan. Welcome, Dr. Ashok Vardhan.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas. Yeah.
And then we have a robust scientific committee of the Andhra Pradesh ISMSICS chapter. To introduce all of them quickly, we have. Pardon? Somewhere it is getting repeated. Rohit, Aman.
Let everyone mute except Dr. Srinivas.
Yeah, I request all of you to please mute yourself.
Medical director, surgeon, and an Indian.
Rohit, can you please mute everyone? Yeah, thank you. And we have the scientific committee here headed by Dr. R. Surya Narayana Raju sir, who is the head of the Department of Ophthalmology of Andhra Pradesh Medical College, Visakhapatnam. Welcome, sir. And then we have Dr. Ravi Kiran, the Professor Pinnamali, Siddhartha Medical College, Vijayawada. Welcome, Dr. Ravi Kiran, sir. And then we have Dr. Indrajit K, Senior Consultant, Akira Eye Hospital, Rajamundry. We welcome Dr. Indrajit to our ISMSICS Society. Welcome, sir. And then we have Dr. Anuradha K, Senior Consultant at Sankara Eye Hospital, Guntur. Welcome, madam. Then we have Dr. Ravindra T, who is the head of the department, Glaucoma and Anterior Segment at Sankara Foundation Eye Hospital, Visakhapatnam. Welcome, Dr. Ravindra, sir. And then we have another smiling lady, Dr. G. Spurti Reddy, who is the consultant of GR Reddy Eye Hospital. We welcome you, madam. And then we have again a fantastic calibre of the executive committee of Andhra Pradesh ISMSICS chapter. We have Dr. M. Parni Kumar, who is the vice principal and head of the Department of Ophthalmology, Guntur Medical College. Welcome, sir. And we have Dr. Sriram Sri Rahula, Chairman, Nayana Eye Care, Kakinada. Welcome, sir, to the ISMSICS family. And then we have Dr. Vishnuvardhan Nadella. I don't know if he has any contacts with Satyam Nadella. We would like to know about it when his term comes as a speaker. He is the chairman of Sankara Netra Chikitsalaya, Eluru. Welcome, Dr. Vishnuvardhan, sir. Then we have Dr. N. Lakshmi Chaudhary, who is the principal and head of the Department of Ophthalmology of NRI Medical College, Guntur. We welcome you, madam. And then we have Dr. A. Srinivas, who is the chairman of Chaitanya Eye Hospital, Vijayawada. Welcome, sir, to the ISMSICS Society. And lastly, we have Dr. A.A.V. Ramlinga Reddy, sir, who is the chairman of Ashmini Netralaya, Narsopeta, from Narsopeta. So we welcome you, sir, to the ISMSICS family. I think with this, we come to the end of the installation ceremony. And Dr. C. Gopal Raju, sir, can you just say a few words before we hand over the mic to the scientific session?
Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivas and other senior executive members of the ISMSC. So it was due since long time, even when Dr. Sambasiva Rao was there. So we were trying our level best to start the chapter, but somehow we could not start the chapter. But I think at least it's not never the late. So finally we could form the chapter, and we are also successful in getting a dynamic young team to run the society, and we require all your support, senior supports like Amulya Saucer and other excellent seniors. I think you all will guide us in the future courses. We all with you. We are all with you to run the future academic activity, both online, offline, and all the academic activities, including the journals support. Everything we will be there to support you all, sir. And the executive also was the AP state executive also has actually involved in this. So we are giving an assurance from the state society. So we all work with you, and then our intention is to pass the academics to the postgraduates. Thank you once again for giving this opportunity to us, and also helping us in forming this society. And we expect you to support us in the future also. Thank you very much. We welcome all the other executive members as well.
Yeah. Can I say something, Dr. Srinivas?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we are glad that our president, Dr. Debashish Bhattacharya, has joined to grace the occasion. Today he is very busy something, so it will be only for a few minutes. I request him to give his president's message. Please unmute yourself, Dr. Debashish.
Yes, Debashish sir, love to hear from you.
Good evening, all of you and everybody and my friends in Andhra Pradesh. It's been excellent to know that, at last, it was long overdue, but better late than never. We have the AP chapter of the ISMSICS International Society. And on a very personal note, I very fondly remember that as the president of AIOS, I in fact commissioned the Andhra Pradesh Ophthalmic Society, since it divided into Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So that was very fond memories. And again this evening I'm really very happy to be amongst you. Wonderful people back there, and we all expect that again, as anything else, in any other sphere, that Andhra Pradesh leads the show. This chapter of ISMICS is going to go great heights. All my good wishes to all of you beautiful people out there. Thank you very much.
For all of your information, and Devashish conducted the third World Conference in such a wonderful way. So all credit to him, and we are really grateful that he was stalwart with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Debashish sir, for the kind note, and it was very heart-touching also that you are there as the president when you are installing officer there as well, and again you are installing officer here as well. So it's a nice auspicious moment for us and for the AP chapter as well. Thank you, Debashish sir. He is the president of the present ISMSICS Society. Thank you for those kind words. So without wasting much time, I can see Dr. Madhvi's smile is coming down is because they have a jam-packed program, and I don't want to take much time. Just in 30 seconds, can I have the president last of AP chapter, Dr. O. Gopal Krishna sir? Just a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Though we have been doing this small lesson cataract surgery ever since the 1995-96, myself and Dr. Sriram C. Raval and Dr. Gopal Raj has been doing this SSS for the last almost close to 25 years. And we did quite a few live surgical sessions way back in 1999. So it is very late to join the national, the ISMSA Society. And we thank all the national executive for giving us an opportunity to just start the Andhra Pradesh chapter. And we assure you and promise you from the entire ophthalmic fraternity of the Andhra Pradesh state that we will live up to the expectations of the national committee. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. So here we almost come to the end. Before the vote of thanks, I would like to welcome Madhu and Madhvi madam and rest of the members have planned out a wonderful scientific session. So from the family of ISMSICS Society and the office bearers, I would like to welcome our international speakers we have today, Dr. Grace, and then Dr. Ayud Asiya, and Dr. Danson Muttuvelu, And the external speakers we have is none other than Dr. R.D. Ravindran sir, we have Dr. M.S. Ravindra sir, and many other speakers we have. And I think Dr. Madhvi and Dr. Madhu will be taking care of that. Here we complete the installation ceremony with a small vote of thanks by Dr. Madhu and Dr. Madhvi, and then we quickly run to our scientific session. We are all excited to know this about this the wonderful topics we are having lined up today. Thank you very much for the patient listening. Over to you, Madhvi and Madhu madam. You can just put a small vote of thanks and conclude this session. You are muted, madam. Madhvi madam and Madhu, you can both unmute yourself, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Srinath. It was a sweet and short and beautiful installation ceremony, though virtual. Thank you for all that kind words of introduction of each of the executive members, scientific committee, and the office bearers. Thank you so much. And it was very nice to get blessings from all the senior sirs, Dr. Debashish, Dr. Amulya Sahu, Dr. Gudati, and Dr. Varamani. Everyone has blessed us. So we have started on a very good note. So I thank all of you for having made this happen. Dr. Madhu?
So first session, I think, is on back to basics. In this, we have Dr. Grace, who will be speaking about the Orbis Eye Hospital, the Flying Eye Hospital. And then we have two of our own speakers, Dr. Madhvi Madam and Dr. Indrajit Sir, who will be speaking about SICS and FACO for beginners. And I request Dr. Parikshit Sir to introduce Dr. Grace.
It's my pleasure to introduce Professor Grace Prakala Pakon. I hope I've got the pronunciation correct, ma'am. Dr. Grace has had a very varied and dynamic career. She's worked on the Zika virus with the Central for Disease Control. She's also worked in Liberia for research on Ebola vaccine. And she has had numerous positions in the American Academy of Ophthalmology and the American Academy of Pediatric Ophthalmology and Strabismus. So she is an associate professor of ophthalmology and pediatrics at the Duke University and also with the Duke Global Health Institute. It's also a special thing for me because I'm also a pediatric ophthalmologist and a public health consultant and have been with Orbis as a VF for last 12 years. But I am sure Dr. Grace has seen much more of the world and will enlighten us as to how manual small incision cataract surgery and generally cataract surgery itself, training is done all over. Over to you, Professor Grace.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and I want to thank the organizers for this opportunity to speak today. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. And so tonight I'm going to speak about Orbis International and their surgical training. So a little bit of history. In the late 1960s, the concept of Orbis began with Dr. David Patton, who was an ophthalmologist at Wilmer Eye Center at Johns Hopkins University. He had traveled extensively around the developing world, and he was really concerned about the state of eye care services and ophthalmic instruction in developing countries. Basically, he noted the high cost associated with tuition, travel, accommodation, time off from work for physicians in the developing world to travel to these training programs. And he realized that even if they were able to travel to these training programs, that they were very limited in what they were able to do hands-on when they arrived. So in 1973, Project Orbis launched. Orbis comes from the Latin word of the eye, or around the world in Greek. This is really fitting for this nonprofit organization that fights blindness in developing countries where 90% of the blind reside. And if you followed Orbis over the years, you'll notice that their emblem has changed. So here's an example of some of their emblems you may have seen over time. Currently, they're using the emblem that's shown here on the bottom. And from what most people here have probably heard of Orbis, in 1982, they launched their Flying Eye Hospital. Their original Flying Eye Hospital was an out-of-service DC-8 that was donated by United Airlines. The plane at the time was in terrible condition, and with grant funding from the United States Agency for International Development and funds from private donors, this plane was refurbished, and in May of 1982, it flew to Panama on its first training mission. And this was the world's only Fly Eye Hospital. It's basically a mobile teaching hospital for those of you that may not have been able to see the Flying Eye Hospital before. In 1992, Orbis purchased DC-10, and with 2 years it was converted and it replaced the DC-8. So this new plane was now had 2 times the interior space of the previous plane, and its inaugural mission was to Beijing, China. When I worked for Orbis International, I first worked on the DC-10, and basically if you've been to any of these Orbis programs, the planning starts years in advance, 1 to 2 years in advance. There's a lot of meetings between the Ministry of Health and the partner institutions on the ground. Basically, institutions are partnered with Orbis, and also they figure out who are going to be hands-on trainees to do the surgical training. They also pick who are going to be the participants that are going to be invited to do the surgical training while the plane is on the ground. And after all that is agreed upon, then the physicians that are going to be hands-on trainees, they recruit patients in advance of the plane's arrival. So what happens when the plane arrives? So when the plane arrives, it brings along with it ophthalmologists, anesthesiologists, nurses, biomedical engineers, communication specialists, and pilots. And basically, pre-selected patients at the local hospital are then screened on the first day of every week. And depending on what is being taught, for example, cataract surgery with manual small incision cataract surgery, they meet the visiting faculty, or VFs as they're well known, and they select the patients and decide for the week which patients will be operated on in order to achieve their goals and what their training skills are for that week. So just an introduction, this is a picture of the old plane, but the new plane looks quite similar. So in the front of the plane is a classroom for the local doctors and the participants. Basically, all the hands-on trainees and any of the participants for the week can sit in the front of the plane. And to get a view of what the front of the plane looks like, basically, you'll see it looks like a normal passenger plane. In the front, there's a big monitor so that you can both see lectures that are given by the visiting faculty members that are present. And also, while surgeries are taking place on the plane, you can watch in real time the surgeries. So the training is not limited to just the person, sitting in the operating room, but also the full classroom that's able to watch. You're also able to interact with the surgeon. So you can ask questions at the time of the surgery because the surgeon is currently able to interact with the people in the classroom. Right behind that is usually an AV room or a communications room. And behind that is a laser room that also doubles as a waiting room. So in this laser room, there's not only a laser, but there's lamps to perform pre and post-op examinations. And also, if you notice here, there's also an IC surgical simulator. So trainees and participants are able to practice surgical skills. Many of you have probably seen this IC simulator, but you can practice your capsulorhexis and other intraocular skills. And then behind that room is the operating theater, the substerile room, and this is your pre-op, post-op area. So this is just a little insight on what the inside of the plane looks like. On the left is the inside of the current plane. The OR. On the top right is the substerile area, and on the bottom right is the recovery room where patients are brought pre and post surgery. So when a plane arrives at a location, not only does teaching take place on the plane, but it also happens at the local hospital. And this is an example of family members and patients waiting their turn for surgery at the local hospital. So currently, we are operating an MD-10. In 2016, this new plane was donated by FedEx, and after it being refurbished, this plane is currently the one that's in action for Orbis. The other planes have been retired. So the current mission of Orbis is to transform lives through prevention and treatment of blindness, and its mission is to work with our network of partners to mentor, train, and inspire local teams so they can save sight in their communities. When Orbis is on site. On the weekends, we sometimes carry out community eye care projects. So this is an example of a large community eye screening that took place on the weekend between weeks of the Flying Eye Hospital program. But Orbis is more than just a flying eye hospital. Many people don't know that. Orbis also conducts what's called hospital-based training programs. So basically, just like a flying eye hospital program, Orbis recruits visiting faculty members, and they send them to their partner hospitals without the plane. They send them with, prepared lectures, and they send them supplies, and they're able to do one-on-one training with trainees on site. They also offer fellowships to some of their hands-on trainees, and this is discussed prior to the plane programs and sometimes evolve over time. There's also what's called country programs, and in 1998, Orbis program. So there's permanent Orbis offices in Ethiopia, Bangladesh, China, India, and Vietnam, and other places in the world. But these offices are run and initiate quality projects, also to improve quality and eye care in these countries. A thing that I really want to highlight for people that's new today, Orbis has a global telemedicine program which was launched in 2003. Basically, this was brought out by Dr. Eugene Helliston, who after doing a teaching mission in Cuba had realized that really to implement lifelong learning and improvement in services, they need to have continuity of care and continuity of teaching. So he set up an e-consultation service that later became CyberSight, which is Orbis's telemedicine program. On this website, you can also access e-resources such as free textbooks and a lot of questions of the week and other resources for learning. Today, CyberSight not only incorporates these e-consultations that was first started by Dr. Helviston, you can access these via the internet on your computer, and you can also access these on your mobile device. So basically, and registration is free for CyberSight. You can choose a general select a subspecialty, and then basically get one-on-one expert advice assigned to you. They can help you with diagnosis. Also a very good resource is now Orbis has an artificial intelligence grading of color photographs. This can help.
Dr. Grace, I'm extremely sorry to disturb you. Rohit, can you please mute all the participants? Rohit and Raman, can you please do that?
Yes, sir. I'll do so.
Please mute everyone.
Do that.
Except Dr. Grace.
Okay, can you still hear me? Again. So for artificial intelligence of color photographs, you can use this tool online to visualize and detect glaucoma, macular disease, and diabetic retinopathy. Also online are live interactive webinars. So if you cannot attend in real time, there is a library where you can access this after the events have taken place. There's also free online courses with CME and CPE credits. So for example, pertinent to today's audience is if you go online, you'll find a course on fundamentals of manual small incision cataract surgery. So I log in myself and you can register and you can actually do a full course, which is 12 hours and get CME credit for this. There's also a library. If you go to the website, you can look here. There's hundreds of lectures, surgical videos, quizzes, textbooks and manuals, and surgical simulation videos. If you look here, there's also, and you search by topic, for cataracts, you'll find lectures on manual small incision cataract surgery. So for example, this lecture that's present online here talks about manual small incision cataract surgery and compromised corneas. And this was actually given by one of our panelists from later today. So if you're interested in that, feel free to log online and you have access to that lecture. Opportunities to get involved. Everyone says, you know, Orbis is such a great opportunity. How do we get involved in this? So there's many ways to get involved. So depending on where you are in your careers, if you are a trainee, so if you're a resident, you can actually apply to be what's called an associate ophthalmologist, which I did myself when I was a resident. And you can go out and work on the Flying Eye Hospital for many weeks if you'd like, for anywhere between 1 and 3 weeks, and really learn what goes on the plane. Next, I worked with Orbis as a staff ophthalmologist. So that's a full-time paid position. It's a non-surgical position, but I spent a year working aboard the Flying Eye Hospital. You get to learn and meet from faculty that come in from around the world and really learn how to train, how to manage a program and run a program in all these different countries. For those of you that are well-trained in manual small incision and you'd like to impart your knowledge on others, you can actually sign up to be a volunteer faculty and go around and help teach future generations. So if you're really interested in Orbis, get on their website, look up their upcoming programs, see if there's a Goodwill tour that's going to come to your part of the world. Definitely check out their website, orbis.org. And as I said, if you sign up for cybersight.org, it's free and you have access to hundreds and hundreds of videos and a lot of knowledge that you can access at your fingertips. So if you're interested, really feel free to reach out to them via their website. You can also contact their country office. And if you have the opportunity to attend the American Academy of Ophthalmologists, they do have a booth there that you can talk to them in person. I want to thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.
Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us about the Orbis. And we have been personally using the artificial algorithm that is there in the Orbis website. It works quite well. And within 24 hours, you also have a retina consultant who gives the opinion of the fundus images. So next, I think.
Can I add a point, Madhu?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Dr. Grace, I think it's a beautiful memories which brings into me when I think it was in India in March 2005 when the first DC-10 flight was launched in New Delhi by our President APJ Abdul Kalam sir. And it was a fantastic, phenomenal plane, and I was very happy to the part of one of the 50 delegates who were invited for that inauguration of the DC-10 flight, which actually had parked in the Hajj terminal of airport because most of the time it will be empty. I don't know if rest of all the panel were also there along with the inauguration. It was a wonderful memories which you brought about. Thank you, Dr. Grace. Wonderful lecture.
Thank you. Now I think without wasting much time, we have our Vice President, Dr. Madhavi Rao ma'am. She'll be telling you the top 5 pearls for beginners in SICS. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Madhu far out now, na?
Sir, right, sir, right. Right, thank you, sir. Madhavi ma'am, can you go ahead?
No, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, we can see your screen.
Make it full screen.
Just a minute, I'm not able to see it here. Just.
Not from the first slide, ma'am.
Just a minute.
And we are seeing slide number 25.
Yes.
Yeah. So is it visible?
Yes. Can you put on the slideshow?
Yes. Yeah. All right. Sorry for that. Good evening, everyone. My topic is top 5 tips for a SICS beginner. I've been a phaco-refractive surgeon for more than 15 years now, but SICS is still my favorite surgery because it has really helped me. It has been my savior many a times in difficult situations, and it gives very gratifying results if done properly. So for a beginner, just like how we say do a proper case selection, I would say even for SICS it's equally important for a beginner. Do a proper assessment at the slit lamp and a proper preparation. Avoid these type of cases to start with. Grade 5 nucleus, shallow chamber, PXF, subluxation, fibrotic capsule, deep set sockets. Avoid these type of cases and do a proper preparation in the form of a peripulbar block, adequate exposure of the operative field, give a superior rectus bridal suture to start with. And then now comes the 5 important key points which I would like to highlight on. First is the wound construction. This is of paramount importance because this is the key step. The entire beauty of the surgery is in the wound construction. So as a beginner, never settle with the used instruments. Always go for fresh instruments, fresh blades, so that the structure, the wound architecture will be very good. Each and every detail, the size, the shape and the location, everything has to be very carefully planned, keeping in mind the hardness of the nucleus and the triplanar architecture. Here you can see that usually the location, to begin with, the superior location is most preferred. As you become more and more experienced, you can go for the temporal or the superior temporal, which is astigmatically more neutral. Also, the shape of the incision. To start with, a straight incision is easy to do the maneuvers, but as you become more experienced, because the astigmatism is much lesser with that. And the plane of the incision, the triplanar nature and the plane of the incision is very important. Should not be very deep. You can end up with a premature, and if it's very superficial, with the buttonholing of the tunnel. You should be doing it in such a way that you should be able to see in the translucent mirror, the blade should be just visible, and as you go past the limbus, the blade should be very clearly visible. So once the
video is not playing.
It's not playing?
No, video is not playing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here it's playing for me. Playing now? Is it playing?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, it's still not playing.
It's not playing.
So it's playing for me here.
Okay.
Okay, fine. And the entire thing is on the videos only.
By the way, my suggestion is just try to play with VLC media player.
Need to say I have to go out again and then do it, is it? Stop sharing the screen and again go, is it? So I'm supposed to.
Madhu, what is the suggestion, Madhu?
Sir, she can do it with VLC player. If you have videos separately, you can do it at the end of the lecture, ma'am.
Okay, I have it separately on my mail. Yes, I can do that. But then the time, it will be a time factor, no?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Begin with even a canopy can be done, but definitely a CCC makes all the steps easier and more safer. Done with a 26 gauge needle. Initiated with a 26 gauge needle, and then it can be. Just let me just see if this set list is it working. Is it working?
No, ma'am.
26 gauge needle or with the cystotome. Initiate with the cystotome and then it can be completed. But here you need to, I have removed a lot of my slides because I wanted to accommodate videos, but now I have to tell. So what is important in this CCC of SICS is, we are also used to doing a 5.25, 5.5 max for a phaco, whereas here it has to be slightly larger. That is why a preoperative assessment of the nucleus is very important. So accordingly, the rexes should be slightly larger, 6 to 6.5, so that all the remaining procedures of the prolapse, hydro procedures and the nucleus prolapse will be traumatic. Multiple jets of small jets of fluid in multiple places, and then a sudden bolus can be given so that the part of the pole of the nucleus will pop out, and then the nucleus prolapse becomes very easy. The fourth important point is of the nucleus management. This is very important because many different techniques are there. The popular ones being the Blumenthal, the getting vectors, and the phaco sandwich. Whichever works good in your hands, you can do that. They are very safe. You have to be very careful here because if here you don't take care, the endothelium can get damaged, the extent can get damaged, zonular dialysis, and also the posterior capsular tear. So we have to assess again the size of the incision. So if you feel that the adequate size is not there, please do not hesitate to enlarge the tunnel. This is another important pearl. Sorry about the videos. And the cortical cleanup. Cortical cleanup is you have to do a complete cortical cleanup so that the post-operative period will be very smooth. IOL implantation is done in the way, because if it is a rexis, then you can do a in the bag implantation of a foldable IOL or a rigid IOL. But if it is a can opener, please go for a rigid IOL in the sulcus. Again here, if your incision is smaller, because now SICS also has started becoming smaller and smaller. From 6 we have come to 5, and today we are going to have a talk on 2 mm SICS also. But if you're going to implant a rigid lens, see that your incision size is big enough, otherwise the beauty of the architecture, the wound architecture will be gone. Not very thick incision, then please, it's always better to put a suture so that you can avoid astigmatism and there will be a secure wound. So to summarize, a thorough preoperative assessment and a proper preparation, proper tunnel construction with adequate rexis and procedures, a traumatic mode of nucleus delivery, proper and complete cortical and visco wash, and secure wound closure. These are the 5 points I would like to highlight. That will give us a very gratifying results. In fact, I can almost equate it to whatever we get with phaco. Thank you for your patient hearing. I don't know if I can share my videos.
We'll go to the next talk when we can be ready. If the time permits, we can.
Okay, let me just see if I have. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Dr. Indrajit, Dr. Indrajit will be speaking about 5 tips for phaco for beginners. He is from Akira Hospital, Rajahmundry. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm just sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
It is visible, sir.
We can see your screen, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, once again. So let's make this our way of life. Not only for phaco, for anything new, anything which we are going to learn. The knowledge should be from known to unknown. It should be also be factual and evidence-based with practical knowledge mixed with common sense and wisdom. We also should have a vision For that, we need to see the experts do, see the best methods, keep on seeing them, better ourselves, visualize ourselves doing the step, each step perfectly till it's completed in the mind. Always put that into practice, like experiment it or put it into action in a protected environment. Like either we can go for a simulators or even on artificial eyes or goat eyes, or under supervision with a consultant, senior consultant or trainers. And keep on persevering. So we have to keep on practicing it. Practice makes a man perfect. The right practice makes him better. And with a positive attitude, we should better ourselves in spite of failures at times till we succeed and become experts. Always discuss and in addition teach to our juniors. So we learn a lot more in that way and always become better and better. So the counseling will be a little bit we have to also go for local or peripheral anesthesia and insist on the longer duration of the surgery needed. And also be better to have a retinal surgeon or backup as a backup. And need for any post-op retinal glaucoma or corneal evaluation has to be explained to the patient. So avoid patients with any systemic and ocular comorbidities, and also avoid very soft and very hard cataracts in the beginning stage. So the most critical step during phaco and also maybe even for SIS is CCC, continuous curvilinear capsulorhexis. This is ideal. This is like very the deciding step for phaco, because depending on that we have to decide whether to go ahead with phaco or convert it. Our trainees are taught to do CCC from the site before main entry is given, so that we can always convert to SICS or ECC if CCC is not possible. Avoid any multifocals, torics and even aspheric IOLs if the CCC is not adequate with risk of any displacement. So I think I'll just show the video. Is the video visible?
It's not playing there.
It's not playing, sir.
Not so far, sir.
Yeah. No?
No, sir, not yet.
Maybe I suggest you see whether the video is playing in the background. Maybe you just minimize your screen and see.
Yeah.
In the background.
Is it visible now?
No, sir. You have to come out of this PowerPoint if it's playing in the background.
You can minimize your screen and then play it on the desktop, whatever video you have.
Is it now visible now?
Yeah, can you play it, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
So this is a CCC. We started the center given and then using centrifugal forces make a circular continuous capsulorhexis. It should be ideally around 5 to 5.5 mm so that the IOL when it is placed inside is completely overlapped. The step is very important. Only thing we have to be careful is in SICS we need to go for a bigger one. So suppose we have to convert, be ready to do that. Yes. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay. So larger CCC and multiple relaxing cuts or can opener is needed. Then we have to convert. Always use good viscoelastic to avoid upthrust and deepen AC. Always maintain good visibility using good microscope and with red reflex, and always avoid air bubbles. Use strip and blue whenever needed. Aim for a smaller CCC in pediatric and soft cataracts. Add plus 0.5 diopters to oil power calculation if previously we were doing ECC in the sulcus IOLs. Is the video now visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Fine, thank you. So this is the main entry. It's ideal to go for a 3-planar incision. Make an incision, then enter into the cornea, then dip and then re-enter into the.
Okay.
So the main thing is
just have 1 more minute. So try to.
Yeah. So this is a very important step. There should not be any DM strips. There should not be any premature entry or buttonholing. Is very ideal because all the steps are based on this step.
So what is the instrument you're using to stabilize with the left hand?
There is an iris repositor.
Okay.
So nucleus management. After hydro procedures, hydrodissection and hydrodeletion, we enter with the bevel down and then fill the probe so that the bevel is facing up. Then aspirate the central cortical matter and then start trenching. The trench should be adequate, deep enough and wide enough. In the beginners, it's always better to do a 4-quadrant and have a cruciate trench. We can also use an iris repositor, but using an iris repositor makes the maintenance of AC is easier. There is not much leak. And then we are using an iris repositor to spread the pieces and start emulsifying. And also aspirate the epicortex, epinucleus. Ideally, I prefer a bimanual of phaco because it's easier to remove the subincisional cortex. I would advise all the beginners to initially, while they're doing SICS, to make 2 side ports and use bimanual to aspirate. Try it out. And also the Rexis also they can try in the same way while they're doing ECC or SICS before they shift to phaco. So here you can see the subincisional cortex is easier to remove. One more thing we have to be aware of is the IVL loading, because most of the times we have to go with the foldable IVL. The leading haptic should be folded such that it comes onto the optic. The trailing haptic also should be folded onto the optic, then insert into the cartridge. IVL insertion is one more step where the wound and the cartridge side should coincide, so it will be easier to insert. See that the tip of the cartridge is entirely in the antechamber, then start pushing the IVL inside into the bag. The trailing haptic sometimes it doesn't go directly into the bag, then we can just tap it with the iris repositor. No need of even using a dialer for that. The other critical steps are maintain adequate anesthesia and prevent positive pressure, proper chair and bed positioning. This is very important actually. Especially if you're doing lots of surgeries, it's always better to maintain an adequate exposure of the operating field, good visibility and focus, and the proper chair positioning. Ideal side ports and main port placement is also important for easy maneuverability. Always use good blades to prevent DM strips. Adequate hydro procedures are very important, and proper nucleotomy fragmentation removal is needed. The complete cortex removal and adequate capsule polishing is also very important. IVL insertion under viscoelastic and removal of the viscoelastic is needed. Good hydration, perfect wound closure at the end of the surgery, and giving post-operative instructions also is very important. It will be helpful to have a backup phaco machine and troubleshooting experts in case of breakdown. And also be prepared to convert or postpone the case, and also be ready for dealing with any complications. So routine post-operative care. In addition, the patient should be if at all needed, we should be able to send him for a retinal glaucoma corneal evaluation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So before we wrap up this session, I request Dr. Ravikumar Reddy, sir, who is a teacher of teachers, and Dr. Parikshit, sir, to give their valuable tips and wisdom regarding both these wonderful techniques before we go to the next session. Ravikumar Reddy, sir, can you please unmute? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. One thing is he has done his job in a short time nicely. Only one point is what he said is when you are implanting in the sulcus, you have to add 0.5. It's not like that. You have to deduct 0.5 diopters because the lens is placed anteriorly.
No, when it is inserted in the bag,
you have to protect the IOL power, not add. The other thing is when he said it is beginners. When it is beginners, the incision should be sclerocorneal as that of small incision things, because beginner should be comfortable. Whenever he is not comfortable, we can go to SICS. So that the beginners always start with the sclerocorneal incisions. So that's what I meant. The other madam has not shown her videos to comment. So after the videos, we'll comment. Thank you.
Dr. Madhavi made two very pertinent comments, is that in manual small incision surgery, we should not insist on the small. The incision has to be large enough to get the nucleus out so that we don't damage the endothelium, which is irreplaceable. And of course, if needed be, we should put in sutures. So I think that's one very valuable tip that she mentioned. Thank you.
Now we'll go to the next session. Now that we are done with the basics, now let's see what our stalwarts do when the going gets tough. We have none other than Dr. RDR sir from Aravind, who will be the keynote speaker, and we are all fortunate enough because he'll be sharing the same topic he has told in the World Ophthalmic Congress. So those of us who have missed that have a pleasure of listening it now. I request Dr. VVLM sir to introduce Dr. RDR sir, and then we have our chairman and president who will be speaking about phaco in difficult situations like small pupil and posterior polar cataract. VVLM sir, can you please, sir, can you unmute yourself? VVLM sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
RDR sir.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. I am privileged to introduce Dr. R.D. Ravindran sir, who is specialized in the field of cataract and intraocular lens surgery. Dr. Ravindran started his practice under the legend Dr. G. Venkateswaran Garu, the founder of Aravind Eye Care System, in 1987. Every time Aravind opened a new center, he was identified to be the chief medical officer and thus has vast hands-on experience in the art and science of building and replicating hospitals. After chief medical officer of various Aravind centers for close to 23 years, Dr. Ravindran sir took on the role of chairman of Aravind Eye Care System in 2010. Apart from managing the mentoring the key leaders of the institution, his areas of interest include teaching eye health management courses leading to capacity building of eye hospitals. He served as the regional co-chair of the International Association for Prevention of Blindness from 2004 to 2012, and he is the board member of Vision 2020, the Right to Sight Society of India, since 2008. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for the introduction. Thanks to Dr. Madhu and all the others, Dr. Amulya Sahu especially. I'm really happy to see the growth of the organization in the last 4 to 5 years. Thanks to Dr. Amulya and also Debashis, who's taking over from him. I will talk about the manual small incision cataract surgery in conquering rock hard cataract. For the hard cataract, all the surgical options can be used. Either you can use a conventional ECC where we do about 12 to 14 millimeter incision. Either you can do a conventional phacoemulsification, or a femto laser assisted phacoemulsification is also gaining popularity. In addition to the manual SICS, we all do. So while phacoemulsification in any cataract is good, because of the better uncorrected vision we have, because of the less surgically induced astigmatism, and also because of the early refractive stabilization, it is probably the preferred choice. But however, it needs very good equipment, probably the latest equipments which are expensive. You may need higher and copious amount of viscoelastics to protect your corneal endothelium. And also it needs a higher skill and additional resources, and it cannot be easily done by somebody who have got 1 or 2 years of experience. So, and also at the same time, all the cataracts are not amenable to phacoemulsification, especially hypermature cataracts that has got a nuclear opalescence of more than grade 5, wherein manual SICS can be done in any situations. In that way, manual SICS is an ideal option. And again, doesn't require any sophisticated equipments. Anybody with a reasonable skills can do it. And the cost of the procedure is very, very low and with minimal surgical complications. Other major advantage is that because of the less corneal edema compared to phaco, you have an early visual recovery as well. And at the same time, the challenges in hard cataract is similar to what we have in phaco, which is about managing the nucleus. So the two key steps, one is prolapsing the nucleus out of the capsular bag is a challenging, and similarly removing the nucleus from the anterior chamber is also a challenging task. Coming to the prolapse from the bag, normally what we do is we try to do a good rhexis, we try to have dilated pupil, soft eye, and routinely we try to hydroprolapse the nucleus. So that is the way we do in most of the cases. But in hard cataract, this hydroprolapse may not work, and we may have to use a modified technique using a ISMSICS hook to mechanically hook out the nucleus. So this is one difference from the routine cataract surgery for SICS. So when the way we do it is we take the ISMSICS hook, move it on the anterior surface of the nucleus, go to the equator, and you hook the equator of the nucleus. As you hook, you have to push it to the opposite side till you visualize the equator of the cataract. And once you do that, once you see it, you have to lift it and rotate it. And you can see it in this particular video, this rhexis being completed. And once a rhexis is completed, because it's a kind of hypermature cataract with a lot of loose cortex, so you can remove all of that. So you can see the ISMSICS hook going into the bag to the periphery, and we brought it up to the when you see the equator near the center of the pupil, you lift it up and rotate it either clockwise or anti-clockwise till it comes out. So this is one essential difference when you do it in hard cataract. But it doesn't work sometimes. If you have a hard cataract and it keeps rotating, one other option is to use a bimanual prolapse. So here you use two instruments. One, you use a ISMSICS hook on your dominant hand and the cyclodialysis spatula on your non-dominant hand. As I said earlier, you use a hook to go to the periphery and engage the nucleus, push it to the opposite side. As it comes, you put your cyclodialysis spatula underneath, as you can see here, underneath the nucleus, and then you rotate it out. So in that way, you'll be able to get the nucleus out. Can others mute your mic? I mean, whoever has kept it on, please mute it. Yeah. So removing the nucleus from the anterior chamber, you have to use an irrigating vectis. So if you are going to use only an irrigating vectis, you may have to have about 7 to 8 millimeter incision. So for this technique, if you are going to just use the irrigating vectis, you have to probably enlarge it even maybe to 8.5 millimeters. So estimating nucleus size is very essential to modify the nucleus incision size. So here, as you can see, so we have done the incision. We've done a little bit of hydro dissection, but we are not actually doing it. Here you can see the bimanual technique. So we push the nucleus to the opposite side. As it comes out, you put the spatula underneath and it comes out. You can see it's really a dark brown cataract. And then you are using an irrigating vectis and to take it out. It's a fairly large incision. And because the patient has small pupil, we also have done a sphincterotomy to enlarge it. Okay, and you place an IOL and finish the surgery. Okay, you have to form the chamber and it can be done. So this is one way. Similarly, this is again a very hard cataract. This was done, it was a much older video where we didn't even have a trypan blue at that point of time freely available. So as you do the rexus itself, the pupil also becomes very small. But if you're very well versed with the bimanual technique, this small pupil will not upset you because you slightly rotate it, you really go towards the periphery, push the nucleus to the opposite side, have your ISMSICS hook placed underneath the nucleus, and you just prolapse it and it comes out into the anterior chamber very easily. So you may have to rotate it clockwise or anti-clockwise depending upon the need. So once it comes, you can really see it's a really hard cataract. It's not going to come out with this incision. So now we may have to enlarge the incision a little bit more to get this nucleus out. So at this point, as was mentioned in the earlier talks, so having adequate amount of viscoelastic is very important. It's really a dark black cataract. So then you use the viscoelastics to get some of the nuclear debris which are there, and then you can complete the surgery. So if you look at the complication rate, it's very similar in either in a small incision or a phacoemulsification. There's not a big difference either in terms of PCR or dialysis. So what's the difference is you can see the number of cases that was done. So because a large number of cases need small incision and the number of cases you can do phacoemulsification is small, it's all taken in the same period of time. These are all with the advanced cataract. But where the phaco scores over the SICS is in the uncorrected. The BCVA, best corrected vision, small incision and phaco, it's also same. But when you take the uncorrected vision, the phaco definitely scores over SICS. And but by reducing the wound size and by temporal location, we will be able to get a much better visual outcome. So one, we can do a phaco sandwich. Here, as you can see, you have made incision. In addition to the hook, you also use the vectis, you also use a hook. Okay, so use two instruments. Here you go inside. So this can be done a relatively smaller, maybe like less than 7 millimeter incision, we can do it. So you place the vectis underneath. After placing that, you take your ISMSICS hook. You have to really go through the substance of the nucleus and then really hold it tight and have the assistant hold on the opposite side and you take it out. So this way you'll be able to have an incision between 6 to 7 millimeter. So it's possible. So this again gives a good result. The other one is do a manual phaco section. I think we have Dr. Ravindra who will be giving a talk. So he is a master of this technique. If you can go to YouTube and see many of his videos. And something similar to what he uses, I use a 26 gauge cannula. Okay, and use it to split it and also at the same time inject the viscoelastic. And use the same, that cannula and the irrigating vectis to take out each half of the nucleus. Okay, and then you can do all the cortical material and then put the nucleus into the thing. So bisecting it and taking it out, you can do it in 6 millimeter incision very comfortably. So if you're able to do that, you'll be able to get results as good as what you get in phacoemulsification. So just to conclude, phaco achieves good visual outcomes with low complication only in certain types of round cataracts, but it comes at a very high cost. But whereas small incision, we can do it in all situations. It is faster and less expensive and definitely less surgical complications. And again, it is affordable to the patient. And in a situation carefree, it is also affordable to the provider. So I also would like to thank all the organizers, Madhu and everybody for this opportunity to talk to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful talk and beautiful videos. I think next we have our Chairman, Dr. Gopal Raj Garu, who will be speaking on phaco in small pupils. Please go ahead, sir. Raman, can you mute everybody else, please?
Yes, sir, sure.
That got stuck, sir.
Gopal, your video, you're muted. Gopal, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank all the central executive members and also the state members for today's program. It was very nicely conducted and started installation by Srinivas. And then the further speakers, I think they were covering the basics. See, before going to the topic, I would once again like to emphasize that small incision is nowhere inferior to the phaco. We should not think that the phaco is the only way of doing the cataract surgery. So I think stalwarts like Ravindran sir and then Dr. MS sir, Ravindran sir, Adya sir, they all have shown us how effective and how safe and how economical, especially countries like us, and also the large volume cataract surgeries are possible mainly with the small incision cataract surgery, and it's very appropriate for the conditions like us. So whereas I have no financial interest, coming to the phaco or the small incision surgery in a small people situation is a challenging situation in any type of cataract surgery. Definitely the incidence of the PCR or the complications are slightly higher in small incision situation when compared with the very well dilated cataracts. So they need definitely an additional maneuvers. It can be managed either with or without the assistive devices like pupil expanders. So this is the available maneuvers or the expanders that are available. We can choose them depending upon the size of the pupil, and also you can customize according to the case. What that means if the pupil is around 4.5 to 5 mm or for 3.5 to 4.5 mm, some of the cases by simply stretching the pupil without devices we can manage, or in some situations we may have to use iris hooks. In some situations we may have to use expanders. So depending upon the case we can select, and then if with the use of these devices the outcome will be definitely comparable to the normal cases, and then the stress on the surgeon also will be reduced. To start with, if the pupil is around 3.5 to 4 mm, or sometimes there will be adhesions posterior synechiae. By simply separating the posterior synechiae and then by stretching the pupil, we can manage without the use of the pupil expanders or the iris retractors. So this is the initial stage of management in the moderately dilated people. The main advantage is we don't have to give too many incisions, and also the integrity or the architecture of the people will be maintained. Sometimes with the good viscoelastic OBDs, viscoelastic devices, we can maintain the people and then safely complete the cataract surgery. And the small incision and small people situations, in fact, instead of the phaco, I think ISMSICS will definitely have the overscore in terms of the safety of the surgery. Next, sometimes we can manage by simply making several small nicks on the pupil margin, several pupillotomies. With the varnish we can cut around 6 to 7 cuts all around the pupil. That gives you adequate exposure, and then after that, with little bit of stretching, we can manage some of the cases. Again, sometimes we have to see there is no bleeding, or sometimes when we are cutting the pupil, so we may damage the nucleus, anterior capsule. That one should take care. But in some special situations where the pupil was bound down, and then with severe adhesions all around, pupil expanders and other devices will not have much help. In these situations, definitely iris retractors have a role. So, but the only disadvantage with the iris retractors is the sphincter pupillae or the pupil architecture, sometimes it's damaged, and post-operatively these cases will have a mid-dilator, dilated pupil. So the patient sometimes will experience photophobia and then glare. Otherwise, these are the good devices for the very small bound down pupils. Next is the pupil expanders. They are the pupil retractors, and these are the pupil expanders. There are several innovations and then several types of pupil expanders. Initially, the commonly used is the Malibian ring, and our Indian innovator that is BHEX ring. So this main advantage is there should not be any posterior synechiae, or even if the synechiae should be of very limited enough, and then people should be minimum at least 3 to 3.5 mm. Then these pupil expanders will work well, and then it will give you adequate exposure. And the main advantage is it preserves the pupil architecture, and post-operatively the mobility and then the size of the pupil are better controlled with the pupil expanders. This is our Indian innovators BHEX ring, and this is available in 2 sizes. But the only difference between the retractors and the pupil expanders is a short learning curve. So if one can overcome that learning curve, then they are very safe. This can be used in any stage of the surgery. In some special situations where the pupil to start with may be adequately dilated, but in the middle suddenly people can bound down. In such situations also, one should not hesitate using the pupil expanders. So in summary, moderate pupils we can manage very well with the simple without the expanders by stretching and other maneuvers. Or in severely bound down people, iris hooks are the best choice. And in moderately dilated people, we can use these pupil expanders. And every device and every option has their own merits and demerits. Depending upon the case, we should choose them. And in all these maneuvers, we can apply all these devices. We can apply even in the small incision surgery also, and they'll definitely have a handy in the case of the small incision surgeries also. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, sir, for covering it so comprehensively in such a short time. I think next we have our president, Dr. O. Gopal Krishnan Garu. He'll be speaking on phaco in posterior polar cataract. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Dr. Raju, please stop sharing. Gopal, yeah.
Yeah. So at this point of time, I think we are having 3,800 people for watching this webinar. That's a great number for a state chapter.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, 1 minute.
No problems.
Yeah, am I visible?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So today I am speaking about the management of posterior polar cataract in the situation of a PCD. Here, this case is a PPCD with the posterior polar cataract, the minus plus 12 diopters of IOL power. So the trick is we have to recognize the PCD beforehand, either on the table or in the slit lamp. And here I am making a rexis of 5 mm or less than that, because I want to make sure I have adequate anterior cataract to place a sulcus placed IOL there. So once I completed the circumlateral capsular rexis, I am doing a hydrodelineation. So strict no hydrodissection in case of a posterior polar cataract with a suspected PCD, because you may lose the nucleus. And I prefer to do a phaco chop, where I do a direct chop, either vertical. Sometimes a horizontal separation also will do fine. In this case, I didn't edit my phaco part of it, so that you understand better where you lose the nucleus and where, how to recognize this one, the PCD. See, I did a direct chop. I rotated a little bit because of hydrodilation, rotated well, and then I created a 1/4 of this one phaco fragment, and then I'm just trying to do my emulsification. Once after doing emulsification, be careful, keep watching for a posterior capsular dehiscence and keep watching for the nucleus. Till now I'm okay, but now at this point of stage, at this point of surgery, I had a suspicion whether I may have a PCD here. That's what I expected anyway. I'm prepared for that. I just go ahead with the low parameters, and I reach almost half of it. And now I recognize there's a big PCD here, and I lost a fragment of the nucleus. But I was not really worried and recognized the PCD. I recognize the nucleus now. The first point is don't panic and don't chase the nucleus or nucleus fragment which has fallen into the vitreous. So what I did, I didn't chase that, and then I made sure by removing the phaco probe, we have to keep the AC deep. So I kept on injecting the viscoelastic, whether it is a dispersive or a cohesive, whatever it is available there. I kept on injecting, keeping the antechamber deep, and I removed the phaco probe. That minimizes the postcapsular adhesions and minimizes the vitreous loss. And careful hydrodissection. Generally, bimanual INJ is preferable because it will allow the chamber very deep without much getting into the vitreous, collapse into the antechamber. Here in this case, I used only the coaxial with a little bit of irrigation and careful cortical washout. Make sure that this is the PCD. I am there. I am showing there. This is the PCD. The very big PCD is there, and I am just trying to aspirate the cortex with a little, very little irrigation going into the anterior chamber. I'm just trying to keeping an eye on my posterior capsular adhesions, not to pull any vitreous tracks there. Because mind you, this is a high myopic eye with a plus 12 diopters of IOL implants going to IOL implantation there. So I try to remove whatever the cortex possible gently and carefully, making sure that the PCD is not increasing beyond what it was there a few minutes ago. And here, the subinstance cortex, I realized that I'm getting a vitreous tract. Again, I removed the IA probe while injecting the viscoelastic in the anterior chamber so that the ANT does not collapse. And always make sure the wound is clear of the vitreous, whether by manually as I'm doing it in this case or automatic vitrectomy. And then I took a 3-piece IOL, though the surgery was planned for a single-piece IOL because I had a big PC tear. I thought the 3-piece IOL in the sulcus is very safe for this patient. So I implanted a 3-piece IOL, foldable IOL into the sulcus, making sure that it sits right on the anterior capsular rim. Mind you, I made a 5 mm capsular rexis so that I have an adequate anterior capsular rim on which my IOL sits pretty there. So once the IOL is done, you make sure that you secure the wound properly. You secure the center of the lens. Sometimes you can make an optic capture also in the anterior capsulotomy or the procedure, and then secure the wound properly here, and then make the chamber tight and leave it to VR surgeon. I have an excellent VR surgeon with me in my group, Dr. Rajshekhar, and he did the job for me. They always, whenever you have a vitreous loss, pars plana vitrectomy is always preferable, because in a high myopic case in this, if I want to do anterior vitrectomy, there will be much traction on the vitreous base where I may get a peripheral cut there. So I don't want to do that. So I left it to my vitreoretinal surgeon, and he did a very nice job for me, pars plana vitrectomy, and then there's only small fragment. The rest of it is epinucleus. I think to summarize my talks, the posterior polar cataract, always assume there is a PPCD and prepare for the consequence, the first step. The second point is no hydrodissection at all, only hydrodelineation. The third step is we have to visco-dissect the cartridges of hydrodissection and remove the instruments while inflating the antechamber. Never allow the antechamber to shallow, otherwise your PCD will increase and you lose a lot of nucleus in the vitreous. And never chase the nucleus, even if you lose a fragment, even if it's the entire nucleus also, never chase that. You are going to get a giant retinal tears. And past vitrectomy, leave it to the VR surgeon if there is one, and then it's always preferable. And at the end of it, if you follow all these cardinal principles in a posterior polar cataract with a PCD, then the results will be very good, both for you and for the patient. So I say it's a PPE. This is an era of PPEs. Prepare, plan, and execute, and it's good for all of us. And this is now the patient looked on the third post-operative day with a 20/30 vision, and he's happy and I'm happy either. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful talk.
Can I add a few points here, if time permits me?
Yeah, please, sir, please go ahead.
So one thing is like Gopalakrishnan got a So personally, I've tried all these things, but my personal favorite is inside-out hydrodelineation. So why inside-out hydrodelineation? For the simple reason, when you do this trenching, like what I do is I just make alexis. I don't do any hydro procedures. I do the trench. So after I do the trench, I go to a bit of a depth into the nucleus. I know the plane through which I'm injecting the fluid. So that way you can always avoid an accidental hydrodissection in these patients. So hydrodelineation for an experienced surgeon is easy, but for a beginner, he might end up doing a hydrodissection. So it's always better we do that inside-out hydrodelineation. That's point number one. So the point number two, so whenever we have a posterior capsular rent, so in case you don't have any nucleus drop, so my suggestion to all the surgeons who are watching the surgery, my suggestion is first do the vitrectomy. Just forget about the cortex and other things which are there. So vitrectomy always takes a precedence over all these things. So do a vitrectomy, do a nice thorough vitrectomy, and after that you can manage the cortex as if no rent has happened in this particular case.
Okay. Yeah, I agree, Ramakrishna. But in this case, being a myopic eye, I don't want to do a vitrectomy from the paracentesis or from the main wound. Because a myopic eye will have a lot of peripheral retinal degenerations. If I do anterior vitrectomy from the main incision of the paracentesis, I will drag the vitreous towards the probe. So instead, I leave it to my vitreoretinal surgeon so that he do the parsonal vitrectomy. That's much safer for the eye. I do agree.
The nucleus drop, no, you don't need a VR surgeon.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm talking about the situation where you don't have a nucleus drop.
Yes, you're right. Very right. Yeah. There are 100 different ways to skin a cat in. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I think we're fortunate to have.
Actually, we have.
Dr. Danson.
Yeah, we have a discussion which will be moderated by Dr. Danson. I have the pleasure here of introducing our guest panelist from overseas, Dr. Danson V. Muthuvelu. He has done his master's in ophthalmology from the European Board of Ophthalmology, and he's a senior consultant at the Alhasas University Hospital, heading the Department of Ophthalmology. He has held a lot of political and administrative posts in a lot of ophthalmological societies. He is a keen educator, has given lectures all over the European Union. He also has had some experience with the L.B. Prasad and the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, Miami. So he's had more than 45 oral and poster presentations and peer-reviewed journals. His articles have been there. We are indeed honored to have you with us, Dr. Danson. Please carry forward the discussion which has been started.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank our speakers for the excellent talks that has been given. I think they have all been very good and very comprehensive, even though the time span has been very short. Well, I would like to ask Dr. Ravindran, our first speaker, about the hard cataracts, why he prefers a small incision cataract instead of phaco, and I would like him to discuss what he thinks about endothelial count loss and if that has a visual impact for the patients.
Danson, thanks for your question. In a good number of heart cataracts, probably will be able to do phacoemulsification. That's won't be an issue. But in a majority of the cases, a small incision will be the choice. And that's the first thing. Second, it's going to take a long time. And some of the cataracts, heart cataracts, where especially the leathery heart cataract, it will be very difficult to separate the posterior plate. And it is possible only by some senior, people who have got a good experience. They have good equipment. They are also well versed with a direct chop. So if we have all that, then probably, and in addition, you have good viscoelastics, very good dispersive viscoelastics, then you'll also be able to protect the endothelium. So it is not a choice. Phaco is not a choice for the beginners. Okay, not for a choice for people who have a basic equipment. And there is also a limitation in what type of a cataract you will be able to deal. Especially one of the slide I showed, when you do a slit lamp assessment, if you're not able to see the posterior part of the cataract, you're not able to see the posterior capsule part, then that's something which probably you should avoid the phacoemulsification. So for somebody in a developing country, especially if you look at our practice, most of those who come from a low socioeconomic group, nearly 20% of the person with heart cataract. So this is probably the best choice. Yeah. And again, the first day vision is definitely far better than, if you have that as a marker, then small incision score much better than.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting that in many of your studies you've been doing, the posterior capsule rent among beginners are far less when you do the small incision cataract than starting with phaco.
Sure.
And I think that's a thing we always have in discussion in Europe, because we always start our training with phaco surgery, and only a small number of surgeons do small incision cataract. So I think for your surgeons, they at least have the chance to start more safe in the surgery in that way. So what we do is we're more keen on the patient selection, providing easier cataracts for these trainees. So some of our other panelists, they have maybe, sorry, I may be interrupting you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Daniel. Dr. Daniel, I'm Vishnuvardhan. Sir, first of all,
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead, Vishnu. We can hear you.
Welcome, Dr. Adiyar sir, to the AP chapter, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thanks. Nice seeing you, Vishnu.
Thank you, sir. Sir, my
previous two speakers, Dr. Gopal Krishna and Gopal Raju, one thing is that Dr. Ramakrishna talked about the hydrodissection into the substance of the nucleus. I think that is a better option. And for that, what I do, instead of using a cannula, I use a sharp bent needle, because with the sharp needle, it is easier to penetrate the substance of the nucleus. But sometimes it gets embedded in the nucleus, and when you're taking out that needle, again the nucleus may come out. So you have to support the nucleus with other instruments when you're taking out the sharp, but the dissection is easier. And as far as the difficulties in small pupils are concerned, the difficulties are little more in phaco as compared to SICS, because in phaco you require very good visualization throughout. But in SICS, good visualization is that not a must. And second thing, the nucleus itself acts as a pupil expander in SICS, because nucleus can stretch the CCC, it also stretch the pupil. So that is the advantage of SICS in small pupil. Many times you can manage SICS in a better way in small pupil as compared to phaco. That's my comment.
Madhu, can I just add a point?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, I think RDR sir, wonderful lecture. See, if we see the Western countries and the European countries, I think Danson agrees with me. Most of the residents, because I did my fellowship there for 1.5 to 2 years, most of the fellows or the residents who actually start with phacoemulsification. But in India, it's a different context, because in India, we have much easier surgery. In fact, I started with ECC, then SICS, then phaco, and then I got into a VR. But each country, I think, has their own policy, has their own set of guidelines which they try to do these things. I think I agree with your point and slightly disagree with Nadella sir, as what he said is for the beginners, I think hard cataract, definitely they will mess it up. The wound burn is definitely longer. Definitely the cornea is going to grow bad, especially for the beginners. What you are speaking, sir, is definitely in the very few skillful surgeons, which are very few if you look into the number of ophthalmologists who are coming up in today's in the Indian scenario. I think I agree with RDR, sir, to go ahead, definitely the SICS is a choice. Once you become a surgeon, you have a plethora of surgeries in your hand. You can do that, you can do this. I think it's a choice best left to the surgeon and what best is needed for his patient.
Dr. Joshi, I had a point. You said beginner. For a beginner, just imagine how difficult it is a hard cataract surgery. 5+ black cataract by SICS.
Yes, sir. We'll have the discussion in the end in the interest of time.
Because it's a non-ending topic, sir. Fico versus SICS, till today nobody has been able to solve it. It's going to be there, and it's good to have the healthy debate. I think Madhu can take it over.
A well-performed SICS is better than a badly performed FACO. Definitely, it's much more forgiving.
Vice versa.
That is
much more forgiving.
And I think we are very glad to have with us the founder chairman, Dr. Amol Sahu sir. Dr. Sriram sir will introduce Dr. Amol Sahu sir. And by the way, Dr. Sriram C. Raula is from Aina Care, Kakinada, and he was one of the first to perform at Andhra Pradesh. Sir, please go ahead and introduce Amol Sahu sir. Then he'll have his keynote.
Thank you.
SICS journey to the future.
Thank you, Madhu. Actually, I'm afraid it's me who is introduction, not Amulya Sahu sir. He is the founder chairman, and all the speakers who have ISMSICS. That's the journey of Amulya Sahu sir. Dr. Sahu, he did his MBBS from SCB Medical College, Cuttack, and DOMS from College of Physicians and Surgeons, Bombay, and MS from Grand Medical College, Bombay. He's awarded an International Master Award by Bombay Ophthalmic Association in 2003. He has in 2005 he has demonstrated 3 mm MSICS stop and chop technique at Aditya Hospital, Bombay. In addition, he has done a lot of live demos of FACO also. He has led the MSICS delegation to China, Indonesia, South Africa, and many other countries. He is the chief instructor of MSICS at AWS conference in Bhubaneswar 2005. He has done instruction courses in many countries, including American Academy of Ophthalmology, and he is a co-author of a book called Lens-Based Refractive Surgery. During academics, I think he led the student organization also as the president of SCB Medical College Cuttack Student Organization, and he is the secretary, later vice president, and president of Bombay Association of Ophthalmology, Bombay Ophthalmic Association. Now, sir will take us through the 2 mm tunnel into the cataract surgery. Sir, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I'll share my screen. Can you share my screen, please?
Not yet visible, sir.
What is this?
Yes, sir.
You can see now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm looking for my presentation. What is it? 211 PPT. Yes. Can I proceed? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. It would be nice if you can make the slideshow down there.
Slideshow.
Just move your cursor to the right, sir. You see the notes there? Just move up. Just move up. Yeah. That is the slideshow. Just move little right, sir. Not that much. Left.
This one?
In animations and review, if you just click on that.
Sir, you're at the right. Just go to the left one, the first left.
Yeah.
Yeah, press that.
Okay. Okay. So we are moving to the future with the art of cataract surgery, that is ISMSICS. Let us all get this point. This is not a, we have done, PECO is the science of cataract surgery, ISMSICS is the art of cataract surgery. So now, of course, it has been the gold standard that PECO, for last 10 years, PECO came like a thunder. It entered to the imagination of people, and they started mastering the machine and forgot the surgeon. So it was in a hurry. Like I will tell you the story of hare and tortoise journey. The hare moved fast, and then he saw that can't see the tortoise, so he went into sleep, and by the time he got up, the tortoise has won the race. Now the PECO has reached its peak. All the surgeons, all of us went for the PECO and show our skill. So it took a little time for us to recover the ground, and 2005, as my friend Boramani told, that we felt it is very injustice that 75% of surgeons are doing PECO, the ISMSICS, and they are not at all there in the picture. Everybody is talking about my machine, this machine, that machine. Anyway, it was very humiliating for the surgeons. They were not trying to be identified also. It was and that is why we thought that we must have a platform where people can express themselves, those who are doing with the skill and giving wonderful job. And so now we have come to a stage where we are not challenging, we are positioning ourselves vis-a-vis PECO. I am an early PECO surgeon. So, but I am positioning PECO vis-a-vis ISMSICS vis-a-vis PECO. And the pride, the only prominence the PECO got, that they have a small incision, we have a big incision. Now that was a challenging. So whether we can do that kind of small incision and give excellent result with that. So with that, we started as I said, 2005. I did 3 millimeter, and then we done excellent result with that. Now it was thing whether my friend Holdipurkar told, if you go anything less than the 2 millimeter, then the PECO surgeon has to find a different avenue. So that was a challenging. And then Jodhpur, I demonstrated in All India Institute 2 millimeter ISMSICS. And then it was the next day at 6/9 vision, and everything was wonderful, and that was encouraging. Then we went into a study, whether 2018 October. So I had about 65 cases study report I'm going to share with you. Then we had about 44 female and 21 male, and as I'm saying that we have excluded the grade 5 and very hard cataracts in this study, and then the complicated cataract and subject of high irregularity in astigmatism, any past ocular surgery, any ocular pathology, corneal diseases, and severe dry eye condition, uncontrolled diabetes. These has been excluded, and we have included grade 1 to grade 4 cataract, and cortical and posterior subcapsular cataract also have been included here. The age group was between 40 to 80. Now this is the period of study was there, and now we'll straight go to. We studied two part of it, the visual acuity and next day corneal condition, and also we wanted to find out what is the incidence of astigmatism in these cases. And as routinely we are slit lamp examinations, and the posterior segment also was examined to find out any complication is there or not. So that I have told you that we go to the surgery. Now these are the modified instrument I have used, that marker. All you have to wait that we most of the time go for a very big incision and cut the conjunctiva without thinking why we are cutting so much. So here everything is regulated. I gave a conjunctiva and the scleral, the tenons incision separately and erase the vessels. And this is 1.5 millimeter behind the limbus. And I give two backcut 1 millimeter behind, on either side. So that limits the incision. What helps me is that I create the pocket. So you go into the substance of the cornea and keeping your all the time visualizing this thing, and I give two side ports with MBR blade and routinely use the stain. The axis is as usual, but what I usually do, I choose the axis with the steep axis with my topographer and or in my so the steps are there. Now this is one way I break this nucleus in the tunnel, but many a time I divide the nucleus also. When I divide, I put the vectis behind the lens and use my viscoelastic cannula, which I modified. It is round, but I press the tip, it becomes flat. So I continuously go on injecting viscoelastic and then break the nucleus and take it out. So what I do is I keep it oval towards the steep axis, the axis. So it becomes easier to deliver the nucleus. And I have a modified that dialer also. These are my modified instruments. There's a single jet cannula, there's multiple jet cannula, this Simcoe, the Simcoe, modified Simcoe, modified Vectis and marker. So the patient was followed by first day, 1 week, 2 weeks and 1 month. On each visit, patient visual acuity and corneal edema and automated refractometer and reading was again recorded using same chart. And on first visit, the patient subject to diffraction was performed. And the patient post-operative astigmatism was recorded by autokeratometer, was performed, anterior segment, slit lamp and other examination was done routinely. So now this is, I have kept the air bubble, so you can see the first day, the vision was, which was post pre-operative was 624, now becomes 66. Now this endothelial, I have this Conan this thing, and cell count, you see that hardly there is not much endothelial loss is there, which most of the time the small cell people get scared, the endothelium loss will be there. So I'm sharing 3 cases with you to show that endothelial loss is not that much if you master this technique. And this topography, you see the cylinder number has come down from this. Now the second case, the vision was best corrected vision was 624, and in the post-operative it was first day was 69. The cornea is clear and round. Now the result is much bigger, better than what it used to be. So again, you see this that endothelial count is loss. Endothelial loss is not significant, and the cylinder number also has come down. Third case, you see the finger counting 1 feet is 618. Same thing, the cylinder there is a cell loss is also not significant, and cylinder number has reduced considerably. Now this is a male-female distribution. Now in this case, you see that significantly the post-operative visual acuity has quite good. This is a pre and post-operative astigmatism. As you see that the astigmatism reduced quite a bit, from 0.85 to 0.26. Endothelial cell loss is also not significant. So most significant is that in the end of 1 month, we have 64 patients with absolutely no corneal haze, and only 4 we had about grade 1 corneal haze. So it is an ongoing study, and we have a long term, we have to have a follow-up, and the volume has to be more. I am just want the people to ask questions so that it will be interesting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. We'll take the questions at the end of the session. I think
okay.
We'll go ahead with Dr. Spurthi's talk about her top 5 tips for toric IOL. Spurthi is from Dr. G.R. Reddy Eye Hospital, Tadepalli. All of us know Dr. G.R. Reddy, the famous person who has the textbook of visual fields in his credit. Please go ahead, Spurthi.
Good evening, everyone. My respects to all the seniors. I'm quite privileged to share the virtual space with all the joints and feel Let me just jump into the topic. So I'll be talking about the tricks and tips of toric IOL. No financial disclosures. So it all started when people were thinking that cataract is a curse, and they were just left for life like that. So it all started when Sushruta popularized couching, and people were very happy just to get the cataract off visual axis. People were very happy and accepted it. And then there were a few complications, and ICC addressed all the complications couching had, and likewise all the new surgeries have evolved. So today we are at paper necessification and femto-assisted cataract surgeries. So the demand for the future, not even future, even in today's era, any residual refractive error after cataract surgery will be considered a complication. So that is how all the new sophistications of the IOLs have come, and with all the customizations. And today I'll be talking about toric IOLs. So how much is the problem? According to a study in CRST published in March 2015, almost 30 to 40% of cataract patients have more than a diopter of cylinder, and close to 20% of them have more than 1.5 diopter of cylinder, which is quite significant. So I'll be covering the toric IOLs, how to evaluate them preoperatively, and how to manage intra and post-operative outcomes. So preoperatively, it's always proper preoperative evaluation of the cornea by a tomographer is very, very essential. And when I use the term tomographer, I mean always we have to include the posterior corneal curvature. And a good counseling to the patient always goes a long way, giving optimal results to the patient and also saving us. So preoperatively, all the patients have to be evaluated by a pentacam, that's a tomographer. So this is a pentacam holiday report. Here it shows the EKR, which is the equivalent keratometric reading. If we can see in this printout, see the two principal axes are perpendicular, the steep and the flat meridian, and the higher order aberrations, that's 0.418, is within acceptable limits. And if we look at the detailed holiday report, again all the steep and flat meridians are falling within distributed within a short range. So this is just a simple against the rule astigmatism, and this can be confidently taken up for a toric IOL implantation. So this is one more report. Even here again, the principal axes are again perpendicular to each other. So if we go just by this norm, that this is just a any regular astigmatism, and take up this patient for toric IOLs, we can expect surprises because the higher order aberrations are much beyond the normal range, and even they are all distributed among a higher range of keratometry readings. And this is not a simple regular astigmatism case, and such cases have to be avoided toric IOLs. So this is a case where a toric IOL was planned as the IOL master printout. We used a Barrett TK universal formula to calculate the IOL. Here again, the IOL master uses, it's an OCT based instrument. Here it gives TK, which considers both the anterior and posterior corneal curvatures, TK1 and TK2, the flat and steep meridians, and the astigmatism was minus 1.16 at 89 degrees, which is again against the rule astigmatism. So we went ahead and fed the inputs on Barrett toric calculator available on the ASCRSP website, which always gave us promising results till date for toric IOL implantation. So it gave us the desired axis of alignment is 178 degrees with a minus 0.3 diopter of cylinder left. All right, and we're coming to the intraoperative tricks. This is high time where we all have to convert to image guided toric markers. So we have Callisto from Zeiss platform available for the same, and very on. And there was a study in JCRS 2017 which says the image guided systems and the reference marker plus Toricam have scored much better than the unfortunately bubble marker, which was very commonly used. So when coming to the intraoperative things to be kept in mind, the race always has to be well centered. The ideal size being 4.5 to 5 mm, and it should never be more than 5 mm. For the IOL to be stable, and always inject the IOL under saline, which prevents aggressive before wash later on, and always wait for the IOL to unfold completely before the final alignment. And AC should be adequately formed. It should be neither too firm nor too hypotenuse for the IOL to not rotate again. And anterior lens capsule polishing, again, there are two schools of thought. It's the surgeon's choice. So this is, I'll play a video. So this is a image guided system, toric IOL. This is a routine case of toric, which we have planned with Callisto. So this is a plus mark. I hope all of you are able to see the video. The plus mark in the center, this is the center of the visual axis and not the optical axis. This is what we want for the aberration free and clear visual course of vision. So, but to our surprise, on the third post-operative day, the patient was still accepting minus 1.5 cylinder at 100 degrees. So we went back and analyzed our results using the toric results analyzer tool again on the ISMSICS website, which suggested a 18 degrees counterclockwise rotation. So we went ahead and posted the patient for IOL redialing, and to our surprise again, the IOL was still perfectly aligned at 178 degrees, which the calculator initially suggested. So this is the assistant which has manually set it to 16 degrees counterclockwise, and the IOL was rotated 16 degrees counterclockwise. And post-operative tricks, it's always you always analyze the post-operative alignment, whether the IOL is nicely aligned at the desired axis or not. Rotation of the IOL, if required at a later date, is always part of the surgery. The patient, even the patient has to be conscious that it's all part of the surgery and should not be considered a complication. And take clinic points, never miss the posterior corneal curvature. Image-guided toric marking helps always for a good toric practice, and always spend a good decent chair time with the patient in counseling, and always be ready to embrace the new technology for optimal results. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think next we have one of the most awaited talks for the evening. We have the maverick himself, Dr. M.S. Ravindra sir from Bangalore. Sir, please go ahead. He'll be speaking on premium IOLs with ISMSICS.
Yeah, good evening, and I congratulate the Andhra Pradesh team for a fantastic beginning with a scientific session. That is my toric marker, which is smaller than the corneal nimbus, and then these marks are done when the patient is being seated, so that you have a 180 0-degree axis is there, and then the correct, the steep meridian is marked. I always choose the steep meridian as the incision site. I will not take the vector process. I made a direct incision through the limbus. I call it as a translimbal incision with a 2.8 millimeter keratome. The length of the tunnel is little longer. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Fine. Okay. The length is little longer than phaco, and it starts little more posterior. I can even go little posterior depending upon how much of astigmatism I need to control. And that is the rexis. I'll go a little fast because I've got more videos. And then at the end of it, after doing the rexis, I'm going to enlarge the tunnel to 5.2 millimeter precisely. Why I'm telling precisely means if you want to calculate the amount of astigmatism you're going to produce this, all your measurements and how you make the tunnel and how much you stretch the tunnel has to be standardized. You do at least, before shifting to premium lenses, at least do 25 surgeries and calculate the vector-based, the surgeon-induced astigmatism. It should not be that 1.5 has come to 0.25 and the axis has changed. The calculation has to be on vector-based. But this is a soft nucleus, and through a 5.2 millimeter tunnel, you see there is no stretch on the tunnel, no heating of the tunnel at any point of time. I've done a segmental hydrodissection. I'm going to rotate the nucleus, churn the epinucleus, nucleus, everything. It's becoming a soft cookie-like material, which is now can be visco-expressed without any damage to the endothelium. And there is no stretch on the tunnel because it's larger than the instruments that are going inside. And there's no side port here. There's single entry, and you do the capsular polishing, and then you inject. You can see I always cut the slit the cartridge on the top so that there is no damage to the lens as you are putting inside. There is no cracks which can be visible and invisible. Align it to the axis that you have planned initially. And this doesn't need any hydration. Just close the surgery. You don't have to pressurize the anterior chamber. That's the end of it. That's the end of it. It doesn't have to be bandaged and the patient goes home. The introtic lenses and multifocal lens ensure that you're going to remove all the viscoelastic continuous. I'll go fast here afterwards. This is another. That is all the message I'm going to give. Put a small bit of cotton there and put a few drops of either lignocaine or the paracaine on it. It's a combined conjunctiva tenons. Always separate them together. At the limbus, they are fused and there's no mess there. The size of the tunnel is 5.5 millimeters here. And I have got data as to how much of this tunnel produces the astigmatism. Very little cautery is pouring water on it, and only the bleeders are cauterized. I'll go a little fast. That is the tunnel floor entry, rhexis, and lignocaine in the anterior chamber, bisecting the nucleus. You have to be continuously injecting viscoelastic. This is the cannula. I don't use Sinski hook. There's a cannula which is used, and then you can go and implant the lens. Many times I can implant a lens without folding it, and that's a multifocal lens. The beauty of multifocal lenses is it can be implanted without folding it if you have a 6 millimeter tunnel. And you align it. This tunnel produces about 0.25 diopters of astigmatism. I'm aware of it, and that I take into calculation is on a steep meridian. It's important to again evacuate the entire capsular bag, and at the end of it, I put a glue there and close it up. There's no need to bandage the eye. The patient goes on watching from that eye. And this is injectable pre-folded lens, pre-assembled lens, and push it. Then again, I just go fast. This is an Indian-made, a beautiful lens which has given excellent results in our hands. We've done hundreds of these surgeries, and I have again, I do not want to damage the lens, and I slip the cartridge on the top. I do it routinely for every case. I've got enough space there, and this tunnel produces about 0.25 diopters of surgery-reduced astigmatism. I pour it inside, and the lens goes inside the capsular bag. You see this lens, the slit opens up inside the eye, and that minimizes damage to the endothelium, as to the lens. Let us go to the how do the multifocal lens, if you decide to put, you should have a good rhexis. And here I have preferred not to do it because it's a sclerocorneal tunnel which is 6 millimeter wide. It goes inside. Lens is, there's no crease, there's no lines on the lens. It's perfect. This lens is made with a lot of paint in the industry, and by folding it, we distort it. And now that is the patient is asked to look at the light, and that is the center light that you can see here. Initially, it is not sitting in the center. I'll have to rotate it here and there, remove the entire viscoelastic from the bag so that it doesn't decenter post-operatively. This is very important. You align it again, form the chamber. It's again gone. That's it. Rotate it a little bit. It's essential to see that the light is in the center of the central ring. This is the little bit of care you take, and that I put fibrin glue and close it up. And pressure does not have to be very high post-operative. And again, the SICS is most suitable for conditions like this where you suspect nodular dehiscence, and this is a direct limbal entry. Ensure that the inner opening and outer opening takes time. At least I also struggle for 2 to 3 months time how to figure out to keep these lines straight. This is very important. If you want to control the astigmatism with a 5.2 millimeter incision, ultimately I'm going to make it. This is not rhexis. That is actually extensive pseudoexfoliation. This line and that line are very critical. They have to be straight and horizontal, and we should not have a shape like a V or a flat. So basically, if you want to implant either a negative aspherical lens or a toric lens or a multifocal lens, you need to have control on the astigmatism. The second is you need to have control on how much of surprise results you're going to get. Do 35, take all the precautions. Imagine that you're doing a multifocal lens. Have a preoperative care reading, have a postoperative care reading, and then calculate the residual powers that you are left with. Calculate the surgeon-induced astigmatism based upon the vector forces. There are calculators available on the net, and you study 25 cases. You put the same platform. Imagine you're putting an RO design lens, you go and put an RO view lens, and they're on the same platform, and you will be able to do it. There's no pressure on the posterior capsule at all during the entire surgery. This is the last surgery. This is a translimbal again. Posterior subcapsular fixation of the eye is very, very important, other than the topical anesthesia. You see here, it has to be absolutely straight, go inside with longer tunnel, and this you can start from sclera also. So you have to position the knife in such a way that these are parallel to each other. Then only you will be able to control the astigmatism, and you will have wonderful results. Again, this is a tunnel floor entry. I'm not going to enter the tunnel. I'm entering the eye at that point, at the limbus, where I'm showing you the pointer and inside. Rexis has to be beautiful. The advantage of tunnel floor entry is closed. You can see the visco is not coming out. Chamber is deep, and you'll be able to execute a beautiful Rexis of any size. Sometimes I take a guide of a ring that's placed on the cornea. Here I'm not using it. A small thin ring placed on the cornea will be able to guide. And again here, when you're enlarging it, you have to take a very good blade, and that's again the outer and inner has to be, you can see, the perfect thread. Then you'll be able to control the third thing is, do not stretch the tunnel at any point of time. I'll go fast for the sake of time and remove it and put a lens inside. So I'll complete it in another 1 minute. These are all the lenses that we have. How do you choose a patient? Always, to begin with, choose a person who's got type E personality. Choose a patient who has no macular, eye is very healthy. Don't choose a very aggressive patient who has a lot of questions for you. Understand the patient's and informed consents are very important. Of course, the halo is a part of all multifocal lenses, and is much lesser with the modern lenses. And keep an alternative IOL. If you are putting a 22 diopter lens, always put a 22.5 or 23 diopter lens so that you end up with a myopia in case you can't implant that particular lens. Complete checkup is very important. If you don't have heavy, high-priced gadgets, you can use ARK machine to see the meibomian glands, see that there is no dry eye, see that the basic tests are important. This is a pentacam. The topography has to be proper. And the angle kappa also can be measured. You don't need hi-fi. You can also measure it on an ARK machine, AR machine. And these are the things. How much of errors that we can catch? If you have a 1 millimeter continuous error in your calculations, it can give rise to as much as 5.7 diopter surprises, depending upon the power of the lens. Axial length, 1 millimeter is equal to about 2.5 to 3. Anterior chamber depth is very important. So every millimeter change will produce 1.5 millimeters. So that is 2 Barrett Universal 2, which takes into consideration the anterior chamber depth. It's a very simple calculation. Anything above 22, you take SRKT and Barrett Universal and compare them. Forget about all of the SRKT and Barrett 2. Anything less than 22, keep in mind Hoffer Q and Barrett 2. The two should nearly correspond to each other. This is what I said, do 25 surgeries on same, pick up a multifocal lens and monofocal of the same lens, you use it as a platform. And imagine that you're doing a multifocal and complete get all the data. And I will skip this. There are 2 issues when you want a very good contrast. The image is absolutely focused there, then you go in for negative aspherical lenses. The next is if you want a range of prescription, you want a range from this, going for some of these lenses which give a higher amount of positive asphericity. So how do we define the angle kappa? That I said you can do it on pentacam, or basically do not have it, you can do it on an ARK machine. It's very easy, and you'll hunt it out, you'll be able to find out. How surgeons can improve their techniques. I would always say that you learn quoted 10 finger you use to type, and learn that your fingers will be very malleable, and do a lot of MICS, because MICS is keep your surgical skills intact. Otherwise, you'll forget how to do a suturing, how to do a corneal surgery, how to remove. If you forget about MIC, any surgery, any specialty, you'll have to keep doing a surgery, And SICS can be taken to any height. You do not have to worry about, keep thinking on it. What are the steps you have? Record your videos and go back. And there are a lot of things to come in the future. And these are called electronic intraocular lenses, which are in the research. And SICS is especially suitable for bulky lenses. You have this intraocular lens, which are like telescopes, and they have sometimes mirrors. They have sometimes the thick lenses with the optics, which are designed to treat AMDs. These are the lenses which need larger incision. So these are the lenses which need SICS. These are the lenses which need a good control on your psoriasis, good control on your the results. Endothelial damage is of course least in SICS when compared to any other technique. In our own center, we have done parallel studies. Every case we do endothelial counting, we do pre-operative editing, post-operative editing. We analyze our data continuously, especially when we are changing a particular technique from one to another one. And we have consistently seen SICS preserves endothelium to the maximum possible extent. If there is a keratoplasty, post-keratoplasty case, if there is a case with 900 cells, we would take the patient for the SICS and would not like to venture out phacoemulsification in that. Thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity to learn and also to share some of my thoughts. Thank you. I'm through.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir, for that very lucid talk and showing what all magic can SICS also do, and using premier lenses with SICS. That's definitely the way forward. I think we have some time for the panel discussion on all the three topics, the keynote address and the two topics. Anybody?
Can I ask Dr. Sahu some question? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Dr. Sudhakar. Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Sahu, it was very interesting to do an SICS through a
Excuse
2.2.
me. He is not there in the discussion. I think
He's not there.
He had to leave. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I'll come to the next speaker, Dr. Spurti. She kept stressing the posterior corneal curvature has to be seen in torics. But I wish you could have given us an example of how the posterior corneal curvature made a difference to your calculation. The case that you presented that you had to rotate, yes, you do use a toric app and then calculate how much you have to rotate back. But why did the error occur in the first place? Because your calculation seemed perfect, your IOL was bang on the axis. So why should that error have occurred in the first place? Was it due to posterior corneal astigmatism or something else? We just curious to know.
Sir, Spurti had to leave because it's a baby call. And this is Sandeep.
Okay.
So, I will answer that. Basically, what happened was, if you look at the image guided system, what it does is it takes the picture. The image is taken. The limbal vessels are photographed first, and the limbal vessels are superimposed on each other, and that is how you get the access when you're doing the surgery.
Okay.
Actually, if you look at these pictures, the superimposition was not done well by the system.
Okay.
So there was a difference of 20 degrees.
Okay. So it was the error of the system. Okay.
That's what I mean. When you have too many blood vessels, too many limbal blood vessels, it can happen, but it's one odd case. That's why we want to show that in the meet.
So how do you ensure that the vessels are, because in your preoperative assessment, if you take your blood vessels are probably seen well, but due to T plus on table, you can have actually a vessel constriction. So how do you overcome this?
Generally, it does not happen. But one odd case out of the lot of cases we have done. It's only one odd case that happened.
Okay.
That's it.
And one rule of the thumb is we always overcorrect the temporal steep axis. Whichever temporal steep axis is there, that lens I will get placed a little bit higher power cylinder.
Okay. Right. So in the interest of the time, I think we'll jump to the next session.
Sure.
We have Dr. Ehud Asia with us. I think Dr.
Rishi Swarup.
No, Rishi Swarup is not there, ma'am. Dr. Ashok will introduce Dr. Ibadas here. Dr. Ashok? Yeah, please go ahead, Ashok. Did you unmute yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. It's a great privilege to introduce Dr. Asia. So he's from Israel. So he's a professor from Israel. He graduated from the Sackler School of Medicine in 1980, and after his residence in ophthalmology, he did 2 years of research fellowship in IOL research at the South Carolina University, USA. And he is now the director of the medical department in Israel. And he has done so much of patented devices like add-on lenses and CO2 assisted sclerostomy, which we use in glaucoma. And he was also clinical committee member in ASCRS from 2014 to 19. And he has over 150 publications and he has written over 24 book chapters. So it's a great pleasure to have you, sir. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. You can just unshare your video. Okay, this is. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the meeting organizer for the privilege to participate in this exciting symposium. And I would like to talk about surgical management of subluxated lenses, and especially on the capsular anchor in eyes with subluxated either crystalline lenses or intraocular lenses. These are my financial disclosure with especially reference to Juanita lenses with which I developed this capsular anchor. So in cases of subluxated lenses, we can preserve the lens capsule by using some kind of capsule stabilizing devices. And these are two kinds of. One is equatorial support, and the second one is anterior capsular support. The equatorial support, we know them all by Cyoniwing, Ahmed segment, Malugin modification for Cyoniwing, but they all support actually the equator, and they need to make contact with all around, or at least with the segment, in about 1/3 of the circumference. The anterior capsular support are based on a different concept. It looks like an anchor, and actually this is what it does. It anchors the anterior capsule to the sclera, and as you see there, it has two lateral prongs which are located behind the capsule, and the central part, the central rod, which is connected to the sclera. And this is what it looks like in the eye after it has been placed and the IOL is centered. Let's say case here, the patient, 24-year-old, following trauma. We can see the zonals here are missing. And the challenging part is to do the capsular access. Sometimes it's not easy if this is a significant subluxation. Then we insert the suture and externalize it with the main incision, thread the suture. In this case, this is a Prolin 9.0, and then retrieve it back to the 27 gauge needle, which uses as a guide. So the suture is threaded through the base of the anchor. Now the anchor is inserted into the eye. It is 2.5 millimeters, and the two lateral prongs are located behind the capsule. The central part is in front, and then as we put the suture, we actually reposition the entire lens. At this point of time, we do only a temporary suture, so we can aspirate the lens material. This is a young patient. He's 24, it's easy to aspirate. And then in addition, we can use a capsular tension ring. It's not a must, it's an option. Use the ring in addition and implant an intraocular lens into the bag, rotated, so the axis is the axis of the anchor, and then bury the knot within the sclera and this is what it looks like at the end of surgery. So this is on the left, you see the pre-op, and then post-operatively on the right with the IOL perfectly centered and secured. Let's see another example now. In this case, we're using another type of fixation. In this case, this would be the Gore-Tex suture. The Gore-Tex is much stronger. It's actually a 7-0, which is not a very convenient to use. We thread it through the hole at the base of the anchor, and now we externalize it. There are several techniques. A simple technique is to use a 27 gauge needle, externalize it, and then thread the suture through the lumen of the needle, and then pull it out and externalize it, and then put the anchor inside. We can put the anchor before we remove the lens material or after. Oftentimes it is easier to do it before, because in this case we stabilize the capsule as we remove the lens material. So once again, we position one arm behind the capsule, then the second arm comes behind the capsule, push it all the way in, and now we make a temporary suture so we can remove the lens material by aspiration. Again, this is an example of a young patient. In this case, it was a baby. Remove the lens material by aspiration, and then after we implant the lens, we make the suture and bury the knot, if possible, through the hole. Burying the knot is a key point here because it's not easy to do with a Gore-Tex suture. This is some more example. For example, a Marfan syndrome or a patient with a primary ectopia lenses. We can see how the anchor position the IOL in the correct position. And in cases that there is a very large dehiscence, we can use actually 2 anchors. Like in this case, on a young baby, these 2 anchors, and potentially even 3. These days, we actually change our approach to scleral fixation, and we are now doing more and more of the adjustable flange technique using prolonged suture. And here's an example of a patient which started as a simple phaco case. This was an hyperopic patient, and I implanted the 31 plus lens for 2.2 millimeter, big mistake, which ended up by actually rupture of half of the zones inferiorly. So first of all, I inject the viscoelastic, and now I thread the Proden 6.0 through the base of the device, make a large flange, making sure that the flange does not come out, and then insert the 27 gauge needle where I want to fixate the suture, thread the suture through the 27 gauge, pull it out, and then put the anchor into the eye. So now it's safe. It would not fall back because we position it properly, so it now fixates the capsule. And now we cut the suture and make the flanges. At this point, we do it only as a temporary flanges. We do not finalize it until we implant the lens. We can make it short, but still we leave some free suture. Implant the IOL within the bag, making sure that we are central, and only then, and then you see, this is why we call it adjustable flange technique, because we adjust the position. We cannot do it with sutures. With sutures, once the suture is locked, this is it. But with the flange technique, we can make it shorter and shorter until we are sure we are in the correct position. And this is what it looks like at the end of surgery. Here on the right, you can see the flange under the conjunctiva and tenon. And the lens is well secured and positioned well. Can we use the same for lens subluxation of posterior chamber lenses? And we see more and more of those because of association, all the patients, more follow-ups, and so on. So can we use capsule stabilizing devices? Well, this may not be so easy. As for equatorial support, this is not practical because we need to open up the entire lens equator all one, while the lens is so flared. Segment, it's an option, but again, it's quite difficult because we need to open up about 90 degrees or more of the equator. Whereas for the anterior capsular support, now this is a valid option because all we need to do is to open up a small pocket of the capsule and where we can see it best at the center of the pupil. The anchor occupies only about 1.5 hours. So all we need is to make a pocket of about 2 hours in order to insert it into the eye. And let's see a case for this subluxated IOL. The inferior are missing. So what we do first, we inject viscoelastic, and then with a spatula create a pocket and fill the pocket with OVD. And now we insert the needle. In this case, we did it with a Poland 9.0, externalized, thread it through the base of the anchor, go back a bit again, and now put the anchor in the eye, and using intraocular forceps, we insert one prong, and then the second one, pull the suture, and centralize the intraocular lens, secure to the scleral wall, and bury the knob, making sure we should not have any exposed part of the suture. And now the IOL is well secured with a single anchor. Some surgeons did it in the other country. Mike Snyder did like 10 cases. Some of them are with 2 anchors. He uses now the Gore-Tex suture. And here, this is what I'm doing now. I'm using, again, the adjustable French technique, but also for the anchors for intraocular lenses. So this is a patient with malpositioned intraocular lenses in the bed. First, I separate the capsule from the intraocular lens, thread the 6.0 prolene to the base of the anchor, make a large flange, insert the 27 gauge needle and thread the suture, the second other end, through the needle, make sure that the anchor is positioned well with the 2 lateral prongs behind the capsule that are part in front, put it and make a temporary, as you can see, a temporary flange. 27 gauge needle is inserted on the other side, and I use a different technique. One is behind, the second one comes out in front. So we create a belt around the optic, and now we adjust the length of the prongs of the flanges on both sides. When we are sure that the IOL is in the correct position, this is what it looks like at 1 week, and this is at 12 months, perfectly centered. 1 flange at 12 o'clock and 2 flanges for the 6 o'clock position. Now this count acro is a little bit thick and wide, so it's uniplanar. It's maybe difficult to play with it as we utilize it. So now we came out with a new generation, a new design which is very thin. And what's most important is this is 3-dimensional. So it's much easier. This is what it looks like. These are our initial studies in the laboratory, big eyes. And this is what it looks like. It's much more and much easier to use. And as we can see, it's 3-dimensional with the 2 levels separated. So again, in this big eye, as we see, we just put it in, place it on top of the capsule, and just push it forward. This is, we don't need to play side to side, and it's in the right position. Now, if we tie the 2 lateral arms, then we can go in through a very small incision, so like a prosthesis, 1.2 millimeter, and this is enough to insert this device, which might be very significant to reposition intraocular lenses, so we don't need a very large incision. We suture it as we do it clinically to the scleral wall, and as we can see, once it is sutured, then we can pull it out. It will not come out. It is very strong and very stable. So we started our study with this device. This is one of the very first cases, which is in the right location. This is a frontal view with the IOL in place, and this oblique view shows it supports not only the capsule axis, but also the equator on both sides in the anterior capsule. So we find this anchor quite valuable to reposition subluxated lenses, both crystalline and intraocular lens. And thank you very, very much for your very kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing those wonderful videos. I think next we have our Andhra innovations. We have 3 heroes from Andhra Pradesh, Dr. Ramakrishna Tadanki, Dr. Rajesh, and Dr. Ranjit. They'll be showing their innovations in the coming few minutes. I request all the speakers to stick to their time as we are running late. I think now we have Tadanki Chop by Dr. Ramakrishna Tadanki. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madhu. Madhu, just 1 second. Now, like, am I clear and audible?
Yes, sir. You're clear and audible. Please go ahead.
The problem is like my Wi-Fi is really unstable, so I'm really totally confused, like whether I'm clear or not. Okay. So I'm really happy that my teacher, Dr. Adi Ramdan, is here, and he was the one who really taught us the nuances of all this small issue surgery and phaco surgery. So I am going to present my technique of chopping the nucleus, which I call it as a Tadinki chop. So this is a very simple surgery, the simple technique. Like in between, I'll be pausing the videos whenever I want to explain a particular step in a greater detail. So this Tadinki chop is a minor but a more efficient variant of the direct or the vertical chop. So in this particular procedure, I just use a simple blunt tip ISMSICS for a perfect chop. So there's absolutely no need for a sharp tip chopper. So I've not used a sharp tip chopper in any of my cases, even in the hardest of the cataracts. So coming to the measurement part, the thickness of the nucleus varies between 3 to 4 millimeters depending upon the density of the cataract. Whereas if you take the ISMSICS, the length of the tip from the angle is approximately about 0.7 to 0.8 millimeters. So in the video which I'm going to show here now, so if you compare the length of the tip of the ISMSICS, if you pierce the nucleus, it probably goes around 20% of the substance of the lens. So the risk of the ISMSICS going and hitting the posterior capsule, causing a posterior capsular tear is extremely low. And one more, because I am piercing the nucleus, it utilizes the natural planes of the lens, giving a clean separation of the nuclear fragments. So my phaco machine is Bausch & Lomb Millennium, and my phaco settings are like this. So coming to the surgery, before I explain my technique of the surgery, like first I'll show the surgery in one whole go, and after that I'll show each and every step in slow motion and in higher magnification. So I have different surgeries like might chop in soft cataracts, hard cataracts, and small pupils, and white cataracts. So all those things I'll show. So the first one, this is a simple surgery. Just do a simple trench, pierce, and then you do the lateral separation, and you have a very clean separation. You have two nice halves. So I'm now going to show in slow motion. So the step number one is trench. So trench, generally I see like many people, they keep doing the trench, make it long, extra long trenches. So that and all frankly are not really required. So what one needs to do is to bury the phaco tip into the substance of the nucleus, or make a small trench, probably around 1 to 2 millimeters, so that your phaco tip goes and then has a good purchase of the nucleus. And then with the ISMSICS, I pierce the nucleus. So after piercing the nucleus, you just do the lateral separation, breaking the nucleus into clean halves. So coming back to the surgery, I rotate the nucleus and I repeat the same procedure in both the halves, making 4 quadrants. So just observe how nicely the nucleus is getting cracked. It's such a simple maneuver. So the next case is a soft cataract, probably around grade 1 or grade 2. And even in this also you can see all the steps very clearly. So only 3 steps: trench, pierce, and lateral separation. So even the surgery goes off very fast. So the next case is even more harder cataract. This is around 3 to 4, grade 3 to grade 4. So even in such a hard nucleus, you can comfortably pierce the nucleus and break it into two pieces. So one more thing which I have observed is that once we make it into 4 quadrants, the nucleus nicely floats into the anterior chamber. So your surgery becomes all the more easy. So this is one more case of intumescent cataract. I've done a two-stage RIXIS, so drained out all the liquid cortex, and I've done my Tadanki chop in this one. So just see how effortlessly the nucleus cracks. So because it's cracking so nicely and comfortably, I think the stress on the zone is also very low. So this one is the second chop. And then the final chop. So the greatest advantage of my technique is in the small or mid-dilated pupils, because you're doing everything under complete full visualization. So you're not going under the iris. So because you're not going under the iris, you're not doing it blindly, the chance of the ISMSICS going and hitting the rhexis margin or causing an accidental zonal dialysis or causing an accidental postcapsular rain is extremely low. So this is one more case where the pupil is even worse, is around 3 to 3.5 millimeters. So even in this one, you can just do all the chopping in the pupillary area. You don't have to go beneath the iris to do the chopping. The last one is the white mature cataract with a dense, hard nucleus and not so good dilatation. So even in this kind of cataract, I could achieve a good chopping. As we all know, like cracking a hard cataract is difficult with any technique described, but my technique achieves that satisfactorily. To sum up, Tadanki chop does exceedingly well in all grades of cataract, thereby decreasing the risk factor to the patient and enhances the safety in the cataract surgery. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think the next talk is very interesting by Dr. Rajesh from Guntur. In this COVID times, we are all bothered about the aerosols generated in phaco. He has an excellent innovative solution for that. Dr. Rajesh, please go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, your screen is, you're audible and your screen is visible. Please go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I should say good night, everybody, after a little time. I am Dr. Rajesh Ganesuni from Guntur, Andhra Pradesh, and I'm very happy that the chapter of the International Society for Small Instant Cataract Surgery has started in Andhra. This difficult time of corona pandemic has prompted me to invent a small technique that can save me from the aerosols that are generated during the phacoemulsification. Some people, they say that there are no aerosols that are generated during phaco. Some say there are aerosols that are generated. Some are indecisive. They don't know whether they are generated or not. But I don't want to go into that decision, into that debate. But it gives me a great clinical dilemma whether what type of precautions I should take to save myself and my staff when I'm doing. What we need is a physical barrier to protect the operating team from the aerosols that are generated during phacoemulsification. And you know that necessity is the mother of invention, and this prompted me to invent this simple phaco tent. So what we need for this phaco tent is that a simple rubber band, a sterile clear plastic drape is measuring about 1 meter into 1 meter, and a simple crafting skills. If for example, if you fold this sterile tray, the plastic drape into 4 halves like this and cut a small triangular shape like this in the center, you'll end up getting a good circle in the center of the drape. I'll show you a video for that. You can see that my assistant is having a 1 meter into 1 meter sterile plastic sheet, and he's cutting, he has folded it so that there are 4 layers, and where all these 4 layers are meeting at this end, he has cut a small triangular piece, and this triangular piece which is cut at this end where all the 4 sheets meet gives us a good circular opening, which and this the basic idea is to fit this circular opening to the optic head of this of our operating microscope. If you open up, my assistant is opening up the 1 meter into 1 meter sheet, and you can see that the central hole is right in the center. The circular hole is right in the center, and keeping our hands in the sterile area, I'll take the help of my assistant. He is necessarily not sterile, the assistant. He will fix the central, the circular hole to the optic of the microscope. This way, when this is done, sometimes we should warn our assistant not to make the caps unsterile and not to touch the sterile drape too far enough. I have another way of fixing this phaco-10. Instead of having the band to the optic of the microscope, we can easily fix the band to the directly to the phaco-10. You can see that my assistant is fixing it and fixing it with a stapler, a simple stapler, making sure that he doesn't touch not more than 2 inches of the phaco-10. He'll just be touching at the point where the phaco-10 will be attached, will be fixed to the optic of the surgical microscope. A simple stapler and a little bit of maneuvering by both my assistants. One is sterile and the other one is unsterile. And so this can be fixed directly to our operating microscope. As you see here, very simple. You just have to fix it up there. It goes in snugly, fits into it, and it is definitely airtight. Once that is fixed, since I've been doing it for the past 3 months, I've done almost about 150 phaco-10 surgeries. You can just simply open it up and you get a good phaco-10. You get a good cover, a good barrier for us, for yourself, so that or any aerosols, whether if they are generated, they don't come into our surgical field or into the rest of the operating theater. As you noticed, the sterile part which is towards you, the sterile part of the tent towards you can be fixed to yourself or can be fixed to the what do you call the blanket or the surgical or the drape that you put over the patient's face. Then you can see that once the tent is fixed, you can easily go in and out of the under the phaco-10 so that you can do all your maneuvers and your phacoemulsification easily. All parts of your surgery can yes. Now there is a dilemma. So how is your assistant going to apply the necessary balance of solution on the cornea? It's very simple. I just used a 24 gauge sharp needle, fixed it up to a glass syringe with the BSS, and then pierce it into the tent, and then apply the saline. You can see the saline is very easily put on the cornea. And if you want to mind you should not take away the needle out of the tent. You just keep the needle there so that there are no leaks in the tent, and then fix the glass syringe to the needle whenever it is necessary, and then you can simply apply the saline and continue with your surgery. And you can see that there is an unobstructed view of your surgery, and you don't need to worry about the visibility. And all the steps of phacoemulsification can be accomplished very easily, and this has given me a lot of peace of mind. And all you have to do is you should make your maneuver your phaco tip or the IA tip under the drape, and it becomes very safe for you. At the end of the surgery, all you have to do is just ask your assistant to pull away the drape and then dispose it appropriately. So Corona phaco-10 is uses very simple materials. It's very easy to prepare, very easy to assemble, provides the physical barrier from the aerosols generated during phacoemulsification, and the operating team, including the surgeon, assistant, and the running nurses, are all safe, and it definitely gives peace of mind to the surgeon. And in this time of the corona pandemic, where you still have to operate on your patients, I think Corona Factor 10 is one of the best solution to save yourself. Happy FACOs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we go to the last talk of the evening. We have the very talented Dr. Ranjit, who will be sharing his Ranjit chop with us. Ranjit, sir, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madhu. I thank the International Society of Manual SSCS for giving me this opportunity. I thank Dr. Madhu Madam and Madhu for giving me this. I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Okay. My internet connection is slightly unstable. Am I audible, Madhu?
Yes, sir, you're audible and your slides are visible, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, my topic is the chopper. Actually, this is about the chopper for doing the surgery in difficult situations. I have nothing to disclose financially. And this new design is a semi-short chopper, and vertical and horizontal chopping. And there are two models available for both surgeons and left-handed surgeons separately. And it is commercially available to the Apasami company, and it is available in 2 tips, 1 millimeter and 1.25 millimeters. And basically, while doing the FACO, first the main part is where are the incisions and main section and side port. And this is the key for the surgeon's comfort. The main section is made depending on the corneal astigmatism, either temporal or superior. And in relation to the main section, the side port is made either at 30 degrees or 90 degrees. If the side port is at 30 degrees and if the side port is 90 degrees, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Why should we make the side port at 90 degrees in relation to the main section? If we make the side port at 90 degrees, it gives good stability of the globe, especially while we are operating under topical anesthesia. Both the X and Y axis of the globe will be under our control and eye will not move at all. And so for the direction of chopping, and especially while hard brown cataracts, and while separation of the nucleus, also the vector forces acting will be easier if you 90 degrees. This is the second advantage. And the third advantage, especially for aspirating the cortex under the section, even with the single side, it is very easier if our side port is at 90 degrees. But this is the conventional chopper, and this conventional chopper usually edge, which is towards the handle. You see, if you see the chopper from the above, that is at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, the handle will be at 9 o'clock, and the edge, sharp edge of the chopper will be towards the 9 o'clock, right? But in this my chopper, this is for the right-handed surgeons, the sharp edge will be towards the 6 o'clock. When the handle is at the 9 o'clock, the sharp edge will be towards the 6 o'clock. So that if our side port is at 90 degrees, the sharp edge will be towards your main section, so that the cutting will be more easier. Here in the picture shows the anterior and posterior surface of the chopper tip. And the same design for the left-handed surgeons. The sharp edge will be towards the 12 o'clock. We hold the handle at 9 o'clock because they hold the chopper with the right hand for the left-handed surgeons, so that they make the 3 o'clock and cut towards the 6 o'clock. Okay, understood? Not confusing you, right? Yeah, this is the differences between the right-handed chopper and left-handed chopper. For the right-handed chopper, we hold the handle, the sharp edge will be towards the 6 o'clock. For the left-handed, their chopper, the sharp edge will be towards the 12 o'clock because they hold the chopper left hand, right? and the diameters and the angulation of the new chopper. And this is the fine dimensions of the 2 millimeters chopper tip. And this is the, for the right-handed surgeons, this is the sharp edge and this is the tip of the chopper. And especially if your side port is at 90 degrees and with the sharp tip, we use, this is the flat surface, so that the rexis is safe, rexis margin is safe, that is the sharp edge, and which helps to cut the nucleus like this in this rotatory direction and separate it in a horizontal motion. We cut it like this and separate it like this, right? And this is the left-handed chopper. This is the flat surface and a sharp tip, and this is the sharp edge, sharp edge. So the left-hand surgeons, usually they hold the chopper with their right hand and they will cut it in the rotatory motion like this. This is the sharp edge. They cut it in the rotatory motion and pull it towards the nucleus. They cut it like this and separate it. And this is the anatomy starting the direction of the lens fibers. There are many choppers are available in the market. There are so many models. And here the direction of the chopping. If our side port 90 degrees, the sharp edge is towards the side port of the chopping. But if our sharp edge is the main section, then it will help the cutting the nucleus in helping the chopping. And this is the surgery demonstrating for the with the right-handed chopper and the right-handed surgeons. And this is the flat surface. And after engaging the nucleus with the phaco tape, and the sharp edge will help to cut the nucleus towards the phaco tip and separate the nucleus. This is very useful, especially while operating the hard and brown cataracts. This chopper really useful, and the other side flat surface will safeguard your rexis margin. You see how the sharp edge is cutting the nucleus. Madhu, are the videos are playing properly?
Yes, sir. The video
they are playing well.
Thank you, Rajesh, sir. You engage the nucleus, each piece, and you cut it the horizontal chopping, and the sharp tip can be used for doing the also, right? This is the left-handed chopper for left-handed surgeons, so that the surgeon holds the phaco tip with the left hand and the right hand, because the surgeon is a left-handed surgeon. This is the sharp tip. To demonstrate chopper, I did surgery for the first time with my left hand, holding the phaco probe in the left hand and the chopper in the right hand. The chopper cuts towards the tip of the phaco probe and helps to separate the nucleus. See, this is the sharp edge cutting towards the phaco tip and separates the nucleus. That's how it is helpful. Okay, because this is a international ISMSICS meeting, I would like to share one of my small technique, that is the remote cautery. Especially when there is a bleeding at the section, usually we try to cauterize at the bleeding point. You see, when it is bleeding here, we try to cauterize at this bleeding point to control this bleeding. It will damage our incision, and it may cause, if we don't, it may cause hyphema, and tomorrow we may need to drain the hyphema. Sometimes it may cause damage to our section and wound may not close properly and we may put a suture. To control this, in effect, we have to understand the direction of flow of blood. And you see, because it is bleeding here, we should not. You identify this vessel, the direction of blood flow is towards the cornea. So you cauterize away from the section in even over the conjunctiva itself, so that the bleeding will be controlled very effectively without any impact on your section. Even this technique can be applied even if you don't have any cautery also. You can give a small nick away from the section so that bleeding will stop here. It will start bleeding here, so that it will do not form any hyphema. It may cause small sublingual hemorrhage, and you can sleep peacefully for that night.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for this opportunity.
I request Sudhakar Rao sir and Krishnamurthy sir to have a quick discussion of this session so that we can close it. It's almost 10 o'clock in the night. Sudhakar sir and Krishnamurthy sir, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madhu.
Ranjit, stop sharing. Ranjit.
So
let me at this outset, I congratulate our dynamic young team who has installed today as AP chapter members. So definitely the credit goes to Madhu. The dynamism with which he acts is super. Definitely he is going to take the AP chapter to the new heights. I think fulfilling the ambition of Dr. Sambasiva Rao, late Sambasiva Rao. Definitely we have to remember now and then so that we can take our AP chapter to the new heights. And today we have got excellent topics, really fantastic. The only one addition is regarding Rajesh, he has used a tent. And what I am using is just, I ask my assistant to put the visco on the wound of entry so that the aerosol generation will be lessened. That is the simplest technique I follow. I think that is the only addition. Of course, the Tadanki chap is an excellent. He is the way how he does the surgery, records, edits, and sends the videos. Excellent. I appreciate and the Asia's the anterior capsular support really fantastic. We enjoyed. Thank you, Madhu, for giving us this chance. Thank you.
Sudhakar sir, Sudhakar Rao sir.
I congratulate this AP chapter for conducting such a very nice program, and especially this speaker Yahad Asia's videos are excellent, and we really enjoyed, sir. And I think it needs a lot of practice. That is the only thing. And regarding this Ramakrishna Tadanki's phaco chop is fantastic. The only thing we have to remember is that that phaco tip has to be buried fully, so that there will be total occlusion. Then only you can try this chopping. The only thing is, if it is very hard, then I think versus sharp chopper it matters, because if you use only Sinski, sometimes there will be stress on the joints. There's only one point I want to.
Ravi Kumar Reddy sir, final comment, sir. Ravi Kumar Reddy sir.
Congratulations. Did a good job. Only thing is, in future, we'll take a little less topics and more discussions. The delegates, what actually they have in their practical problem, we can solve it. Say, for example, incisions. See, what the small incision surgeons are postgraduates.
Correct.
The phaco surgeons are undergraduates in this topic. So they did postgraduates did the undergraduate job, whereas the undergraduate did the postgraduate job. That means they learned phaco and they are talking on the small incision, and they made everything is possible. Everything is possible. Say, for example, the incisions. Dr. Ravindran has shown 5.5 incision. The juniors may copy it. It's not good. The 5.5 corneal incision, I have seen and gone into the problems. Like that, we'll take in future
little number of topics and more discussions involving the things, and also use of bimanual IA in the small incision and PPC also small incision. All these we can elaborate in the future. You did an excellent job. Congratulations to all the speakers and the organizers.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll take your advices into consideration for the future meetings. Thank you for sparing time. I think I personally congratulate all of you for sparing time. I know it's almost 10 o'clock and all of you have patiently waited. And I especially thank our international speakers, Dr. Grace, Dr. Danson,
Asia and Dr. Danson.
Asia. And so thank you so much. And also Dr. RDR, sir, from Aravind, and all our speakers from Andhra Pradesh and the National Executive of ISMSICS. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, Parikh, sir, you want to leave a final comment before we leave?
No, I think a lot has been said. So,
yes. Thank you, sir.
Madhu, I think the success of the program, it lies in the 5,800 viewers who have already viewed this program for one state chapter. That itself calls for the success of the program. That itself calls for the toast and the cheers.
Sure.
Cheers to the AP team.
Thank you, and thank you, Entod, so much for supporting us. And thank you so much. Good night, all of you.
And Entod has always been supportive for all the ISMSICS society. Rohit, Nikhil, and Raman, they are doing a wonderful job. On behalf of ISMSICS, I thank Entod as well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I'd just like to put few words. I am really deeply impressed with Dr. Ranjit's remote talk. Frankly, I'm really impressed. Like this kind of problem happened to me many times. I keep seeing a small vessel leaking at the tunnel. I keep cauterizing the tunnel. So that used to make this tunnel unstable. Tunnel used to leak. And this idea never struck to my mind. It's really innovative. I really liked it. Ranjit, top class, Ranjit. Really impressed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll call it a day. Good night, all of you.
Thank you, everyone.
For your valuable time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madhu. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.